Your Excellency, Sagi Khani, Israel Ambassador to Singapore, and Mr. Lim Kok Tai, CEO, Singapore Food Agency. Agri-food innovators, one and all, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the inaugural Israel-Singapore Agri-Food Exchange, iSAFE. iSAFE is a joint initiative between the Embassy of Israel in Singapore and the Singapore Food Agency, supported by Padang and Company. This is a hybrid event, online and offline, being operated under the Singapore government's regulations. The initiative promotes collaboration and knowledge sharing between the two agri-food ecosystems in both countries to drive accelerated innovation and greater sustainable impact. iSAFE aims to foster meaningful business relationships between Israeli agri-food companies and key stakeholders here in Singapore, whether they be startups, scale-ups, corporates, investors, and of course, government agencies. The two great nations of Singapore and Israel have shared a lot in common over many decades. Much of that commonality is founded in the challenges they both faced, equally matched by the innovation culture they both have developed. In recent years, focus and success in agri-food tech has got them closer together. And in many ways, this has been founded on the common desire around food security, which of course, as we all know, has been accelerated by the pandemic, which makes the timing of this conference even better. This is the third in series of events, so we're excited to undertake this conference. Today and tomorrow, we have a full agenda with a series of panels pertaining to each of the three streams. These panels will have both representatives from Israel and Singapore addressing alternative proteins, aquaculture, and urban farming. They'll then be followed by 15 pitches from startups in those relevant areas. And then we'll go into networking sessions. So you'll be able to meet those particular pitching companies and ask further questions. We'll also be hearing from SFA on government regulations around alternative proteins. We'll be hearing about different research opportunities between the two countries and a corporate perspective on collaboration and innovation. And also, one-on-one meetings can be arranged as well. Now, live from level 3, which is Padang's Innovation Hub here in Singapore in partnership with Unilever Foundry. It is my great pleasure to introduce Israel's ambassador to Singapore, Sagi Khani. Ambassador, please.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you very much. I would like to start by thanking to my friend Kok Tai, CEO of Singapore Food Agency. It's been a long time that we've been planning for this collaboration. We're very happy to have you as our partner. I would like to say that so far we've seen that we got over 500 individuals and companies who have been registered to participate in this conference. And to me, this is a very, very clear testament to the fact that this topic or these sectors are of very, very an important interest to a lot of people. And secondly, it's that there is a very, very big potential for cooperation, business, research, etc., etc. So this is very encouraging, and I would like to thank really all of you who have been participated, those in Israel, good morning to you, our friends in Singapore, good afternoon to you here. And I would like to say shortly that in this conference, we're gonna deal with basically 3 verticals. One is urban farming, second is aqua farming, and the third is protein alternatives. Now, we've checked and we've seen that in Israel, we have roughly over 400 innovating tech companies who are dealing with those subjects. And therefore, it's clearly impossible to get all of them coming here to Singapore or even participate in this hybrid virtual. But the good news is that we have an embassy here. So I'm sure that if there will be an interest, and there will be an interest, then we welcome many of you to contact us, and we'll be very happy to find the right partners. Um, Nevertheless, we're going to have quite a large number of very interesting Israeli companies from the different sectors. Companies like Aleph Farms, who is dealing with a very innovative cultured meat production, and with a very strong interest to start and work here in Singapore. We have Trendlines. Trendlines is an Israeli company. It's actually have a serious operation here in Singapore. It's also listed on the stock exchange here in Singapore. So we are very happy to have them. And another example is Netatech. Netatech belongs to Netafim. It's the Israeli largest drip irrigation company. And we managed somehow to connect Netatech to an academic research group that combined researchers from the Hebrew University in Jerusalem and from NTU of Singapore. And by that, we are able to bring this very interesting AI, artificial intelligence research group from two universities in two countries to really try and work together on existing urban farming pilot that is already in action here in Singapore. So we use this conference, to bring, AI into your pak choi trials. So this is very exciting for us. The other point I want to make is that we're going to have an interesting panel, not of a basic science collaboration, but on an industrial R&D that will be led by our bilateral R&D fund, which is SIRD, Singapore-Israel R&D Fund. And they will start to have a focus on this topic of food tech and agri-tech. So there is an opportunity for a little bit of support from our bilateral fund to support companies who wish to work together. So also pay attention to that. I will just conclude by, again, thanking our partners in SFA. Padang, Adam, thank you very much for your good work. And tell you that we here at the Embassy of Israel, we're open for business. Please contact us, let us know what you need. I'll have to be honest with you. We do all of our services for free. So if you need something, we don't take commission, please contact us. We'll be very happy to look for the right partners for you. Thank you very much. And I wish all of the participants in Israel and in Singapore and around the world, because we have participants from different places around the world, a very fruitful conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador, and thank you for the offer of free services. I'd now like to pass the mic to Lim Kok Tai, CEO of Singapore Food Agency. Mr. Tai.
Thank you. Your Excellency, Ambassador Sagi, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon from Singapore, and to our friends in Israel, a very good morning. Welcome to the Israel-Singapore Agri-Food Exchange that is organized by the Embassy of Israel in Singapore and the Singapore Food Agency. The agri-food sector is rapidly transforming, driven by climate change, population growth, technological developments, and evolving consumer preferences. As an island city-state, we import more than 90% of our food from overseas. That makes us vulnerable to global supply disruptions. That is why Singapore as a country continually review our food security strategy to enhance its robustness. In 2019, Singapore announced our goal to meet 30% of our nutritional needs by 2030 in a sustainable manner. From less than 10% today and with less than 1% of the land allocated for food production. This is a very ambitious goal and one that requires us to seek out innovation solutions in order to achieve it. Technology will be a key enabler in our plans to build an agri-food sector that is productive and adaptive to meet the challenges of an increasingly resource and carbon-constrained world. For instance, technology that allow for indoor farming for food to be grown in cities with less carbon miles and with lower operating costs when there are economies of scale. Novel foods such as alternative protein can enable the production of meats in a sustainable and safe way and has the potential to complement traditional animal farming. The Singapore government has set aside 144 million for the Singapore Food Story Research and Development Program that is jointly developed by the Singapore Food Agency and A-Star to build a strong base of R&D capabilities in the public sector that can then flow to the private sector through public-private partnerships and undertake cross-cutting research in emerging areas of agri-food sector. For Singapore, we are fully aware that no country has the solutions. We should all work together with our partners to contribute to global food security and in the process, enhance our own food security. One such platform is the Singapore-Israel Industrial R&D Foundation, where there are opportunities to organize agri-food tech theme grant calls that Israeli companies can apply for and involve Singaporean researchers in areas of mutual interest that can be facilitated by the public agencies. On this note, the Singapore Food Agency is very happy to be working with the Israeli embassy, in particular, Your Excellency, Ambassador Sagi, to bring to you a series of panel discussions on alternative proteins, aquaculture, urban vertical farming, and R&D collaborations. Besides gaining insights and trends into this area, you will be able to meet and connect with other like-minded individuals and companies for future collaboration. It will be an exciting 2 days for all of us, and I thank you all for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lim. And again, thank you for support for this initiative. Now, also from Singapore Food Agency, I'd now like to introduce Lo Teng Yong, Deputy Director, Regulatory Policies, who's going to give us an overview of the regulations pertaining to alternative proteins in Singapore. Teng Yong.
Right. Hi, good afternoon. Very good afternoon to Your Excellency, to CEO Mr. Lim, and thank you to Adam for the introduction. Right. So good afternoon to friends who are calling in from Singapore, as a very good morning to our friends who are calling in from Israel. My name is Teng Yong, and today I'll be giving a very quick introduction to SFA's regulations for alternative proteins. We have an exciting panel that's coming up, and as well as exciting company pitches coming up. So I will not take up too much time and in between. Right. So first things, right. It's fine, it's fine, it's okay. Right, so first things, just to make sure that we are all on the same page, what exactly are alternative proteins? So in a nutshell, it's referring to proteins from sources other than traditional livestock. And if you think about it that way, then alternative proteins actually can have a very wide range. So I list out on this slide today a variety of things that can be alternative proteins. These include plant-based proteins, which in Singapore, some of them have already been consumed for a long time. Things like tofu, or as well as other soy-based plant-based meat analogs. So going down the list, we also have things like mycoprotein, so proteins made from fungi. And on the market today in Singapore, we have such examples, such as corn, QORN, and they are available in a variety of products like nuggets, or even some some meat patties and burger patties, right? And further down, we have also innovations coming up in algae proteins. Some examples are spirulina. There are innovations in insect proteins. So insects are consumed either whole or ground up as flour to boost up the protein content of products. And finally, of course, we are also now seeing more and more companies interested in cell-based or cultured or cultivated meat. So the terminology in this new area continues to to get developed. All right, maybe I could have the next slide, please. Right, okay. So some alternative proteins in the list earlier could be novel foods. And in SFA's perspective, novel foods are foods that do not have a history of use for human consumption. And this history of use is taken as 20 years. Compounds that are also chemically identical to naturally occurring substances, but produced using some advances in technology can also be considered as novel foods. So looking at some of the examples earlier, cultured meats are clearly novel foods in our context, as well as some products produced through acellular agriculture. So an example that's quite well known in this area for acellular agriculture is the production of beta-lactoglobulin, which is a milk protein from a fungus, right? So going down the list, it then becomes a little bit, depending on what kind of species we are looking at. So for example, some algae are already traditionally consumed. They are not novel foods, but there are also companies looking into novel species of algae. And this is the same case for insects. In the area of plant-based proteins, most plants have some history of use. Of course, as scientists go about unlocking the value of some underutilized crops, some of these plants may also be considered as novel foods. All right, let's go to the next slide. Right, so SFA requires pre-market safety assessment of novel foods. This is similar to what many countries have done. And companies that intend to use novel foods should submit a safety assessment for a review. We really encourage companies to consult with SFA early, even when they are still in their research and product development process, so that they can understand the requirements from SFA's end. And at the same time, SFA also gets an understanding of what the companies want to do. And we think that this helps to smoothen the regulatory process when companies are ready to submit their information for review. So information on SFA's requirements for safety assessment are available online. The link is on the screen right now. All right, next slide, please. Right, so all alternative proteins, like any other foods that are imported or produced or manufactured in Singapore, must meet the requirements in our food regulations. So these include chemical requirements such as the use of food additives, maximum levels for contaminants, microbiological requirements, as well as labeling requirements. Just very quickly, I have put in the link for the legislation, so companies can refer to that. So, right. So thank you very much. And I'd like to end by once again encouraging novel food companies to come and engage with SFA early, so that we can help you as well as to move forward in your regulatory processes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ten Yong. Now, I didn't actually introduce myself earlier, I'm sorry. I'm Adam Lyle. I'm a co-founder of Padang & Co. And we're very pleased to be working with the Embassy and Singapore Food Agency in supporting this initiative. Now, we're moving to our first panel. And just to remind that the structure of the day is we're having a panel first, and then we go in to the particular startup pitch. The idea of the panel is to compare the Singapore view, the Israel view, get a sense of what's happening in each scene, and then we go into the pitches. So the first panel is, as you can see, alternative protein, and I'd like to hand over to our good friend Nitsa, who is usually here in Singapore, but at the moment is in Israel. So we hope that we can see you back here soon, Nitsa. Nitsa, as you can see, is the CEO of Trendlines Agri-Food and the Vice Chair of Trendlines Agri-Food Innovation Centre here in Singapore. So over to you, Nitsa.
But you have to let me, okay, you have to let me in.
I think.
Adam, do you, I need, okay.
I think you should be in now.
Okay.
I can hear you. I can hear you. So
Can you see me?
I can. So I'll pass over to you
Okay.
to introduce your panel, and we'll go from there.
Thank you very much, Adam. It's a great pleasure to be here. And hi, everyone. Good afternoon in Singapore. Good morning here in Israel. And I'm very happy to be here today and would like to thank the SFA, Padang & Co., and of course, the Embassy of Israel and our Ambassador, Sagi. Thank you, Sagi, for mentioning trend lines. So thank you for organizing the webinar and gave us the opportunity to meet and discuss one of the most dynamic, advanced and exciting topic in agri-food industry, alternative proteins, that in my opinion has diverse driving forces, starting from new market needs, trends, environmental and ethical concerns, and adoption of deep science and technologies, resulting great innovation. And yes, we do see innovation at almost all elements of the alternative protein value chain: breeding, processing, manufacturing, distribution, consumer platform, and much more. It's quite amazing that 2020, and all of us know what a year was that, ended with $1.5 billion investment in alternative protein. And I'm wondering, are we witnessing a revolution that will totally change the way we are consuming protein? Or is it just another step in our in the evolution of food consumptions? So as Adam mentioned before, I'm the CEO of the Trendlines Agri-Food Fund, based in Singapore and invest globally. And I will try to address those questions and many others with our distinguished and professional guests. Let me please introduce our two guests. We'll start with Dr. Matthew Chow, PhD in food technology and a food scientist in the Big Idea Venture. So Dr. Matthew, can you please shortly introduce yourself?
Thank you, Niza, for the kind introduction. So, hi everyone. Good afternoon to those that in Singapore, and good morning for those that in Israel. So, yeah, I'm very happy to be on this panel session. Yeah, so I'm Matthew from the Idea Ventures. So, what I do there is typically we do help our portfolio companies to see how they can help commercialize their product in Singapore. So our portfolio company ranges from plant-based companies in the plant-based seafood, meat, dairy, and even ingredients or technology, and how do we help them to bring their products into Singapore and also to launch their product here in Singapore. On the cell-based category, we do help them as well to help them to create their prototype, because typically they have done a lot of R&D, but what we need to do is translate this R&D to something that is visual. You can look at it and can really understand how does it really helps to the ecosystem. So this is what we currently do in the other ventures, and really very excited for this panel discussion.
Thank you very much, Matthew. And we'll move now to my friend Neil, Mr. Neil Goldstein from the Good Food Institute in Israel. Neil, can you please share with us the G5 mission and something about yourself shortly, and then we'll go to the questions that we plan to discuss today.
Hi, Nitsa. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. So the Good Food Institute is a global non-profit organization. We are working to accelerate the field of alternative proteins. We are working with the business sector worldwide, from startups to the biggest food and agriculture corporates worldwide. We are working with governments, assisting them in developing strategies for this sector, and also with the scientific sector. About a third of our global team are scientists. We are working from the US, Europe, South America, Asia Pacific, India, and of course here in Israel. And yeah, that's us.
Thank you. So welcome, and unfortunately we have less than 20 minutes, but we will try to do the best of it. So Dr. Matthew, I would like to address my first question to you. It seems that there is no questions about the current present status of this exciting industry, but most of the questions referring to the future. And one of them is the consumer acceptance. Can you please elaborate on that? And especially, can you focus on the Asian market, please?
Yeah, definitely. So this is commonly the challenges faced by our portfolio companies, especially those that are focusing on plant-based products. Typically, they are trying a lot of R&D to create alternative sources in terms of creating their plant-based meat or plant-based seafood or even dairy. But the key idea, the key challenges is that besides the regulatory point of view, the taste is very important. Using different plant sources and incorporate different beanie taste and different undesirable aftertaste that's typically a challenge for them to mask it or eventually to remove it. So they do spend a lot of time and try to look at different techniques and different flavorings that they can able to enhance the flavor, but yet to also preserve the nutrients and the natural flavors of the plant-based product. So consumer acceptance is always the key thing that we have to understand. We always run different tasting sessions, different sensory sessions together with different panelists. So we want to gather a lot of insights about the acceptance of it, not just looking at the visual. We do also want to understand the taste, because the taste is the key thing that drives the consumer to buy the product. So that's something that we want to understand. So as you know that vegetarian products or vegan products are quite common in Singapore. You have the tofu, you have your soy milk. So we are very commonly exposed to such products. So how do these companies really bring in the innovative product to the market? They do have to think about how they want to market their product. So the strategy is really important, and also to see how they can create a product, not just to cater the Western point of view, like your patty, your nuggets, but they're trying to look into the Asian products like your dumplings, your basil pork chicken and stuff like this. So that's something that they work on. I would say that it's tricky at the time, because we really need to understand the acceptance. It's not easy, because you get to see people love it a lot, and some of them they just don't like it because of the taste. So I think there's always like the balance of it to see how they can launch their product as fast as possible, and yet to collect more data as well, because it's not having a few panelists does not represent the whole population. So that's why we do really help them and see how we can achieve that. So yeah, consumer acceptance is definitely the key thing. I know a lot of companies has start off with just a very basic product, and right now I can see they grow tremendously, having their product not just looks good, tastes good, with the right nutrition content, as well as we do have the right shelf life, so it's safe for consumption. So yeah, really happy that our portfolio companies are really doing well.
Yeah. So does it mean that if an Israeli company developing a product, so it can end with few products with few different tests for one for the American market and the other one for the, so they have to take that in consideration in their development process, right?
Yeah, definitely. They do have to see what's the key consumer that they are targeting, because the Asian consumer will have different preference compared to the Western consumer. But Singapore is really a good market to test, because we have a diverse population. Our consumers are different, and they really give a lot of feedback to the portfolio companies. So for Israeli companies, I would say that look at the consumers market that you're looking for. Definitely, we will be there to help them as well, to see what sort of analysis we can do, as well as what sensory tasting session they have done. Give them some insights as well, and probably they can really transit from a product to suit the Asia market as well as the US market.
Okay, great, thank you. Neil, so in your opinion and experience, what are the challenges of the global ecosystem? And can you please describe your advancing solution for the alternative protein? At the same time, it will be great to hear like a short overview on the Israeli ecosystem as well.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Nitsa. Alternative proteins are making a lot of news nowadays, but I think we have to keep in mind that we are still in the very, very early days of this industry. You have many forecasts, but I think it's safe to say that by 2030, this will be about a 10% market out of the global meat industry, which is huge. It's more than $140 billion. As to challenges, I think we all have to keep in mind the big challenge at the top of our heads, which is how to biomimic meat or milk or eggs without using animals. This should be at the top. If we look at more specific challenges that the industry is looking at nowadays, we look at whole cuts, first of all, as one very big challenge. I think that the industry still needs to work on how to create a good steak, chicken breast, those kind of things. Seafood is a huge opportunity globally, also in Asia, more specifically how to create good seafood products that are plant-based, huge opportunity again. And if we take a look at the different technological aspects from fermentation to cultivated meat and plant-based, then we created our advancing solution for alternative protein studies that you can find on our website. And we spoke with hundreds of researchers and experts from around the world to find out exactly what are the challenges for each industry globally. So you can take a look, but if I can give you a few insights from that, then obviously fermentation is very interesting to look at in the next coming years, how it will scale up, how we can find more specific molecules to use as specific taste molecules for the plant-based food industry. In cultivated meat, we are seeing, I'm happy to be seeing more and more companies moving into pilot production stages, into early manufacturing, partnering with the big food companies, trying to figure out how will cultivated meat do meat processing of product, how it will reduce cost, distribution. Those are great challenges. In terms of plant-based, I join you in saying that crop optimization is a huge challenge, how we can better create crops that fit our industry. We also lack good sources of plant-based fat for the industry nowadays. And a huge challenge is also texture, how we can create novel texturizing mechanisms besides the high moisture explosion. I think that a lot of the answers for these challenges can come from additional open access science. And I think that's one place where Israel and Singapore can collaborate on creating more and more advanced open access science. And I think it's also a good opportunity to say that GFI just launched a $5 million grant for academic research worldwide, and you can find more details about that on our website.
Great. Yeah, Neil, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I think maybe if you'd like, I can give a few points about where the Israeli ecosystem is nowadays. And I think Israel is considered a global hub nowadays, both for research and innovation. We have over 70 startups of alternative proteins in Israel that have raised over $250 million today, including just yesterday Future Meat that raised an additional $25 million, very exciting. So overall, Israel is ranked second or third in the world in terms of the number of cultivated meat and fermentation startups. We also have mapped the relevant research labs in Israel, and we see that we have more than 300 relevant labs in the Israeli Academy, and also the world's first academic R&D course for alternative protein research and innovation, which we are nowadays working with the Singapore government to also be able to give in Singapore. So that's about that.
Great. Dr. Matthew, I think that we are very short in time, but we'll try to anyway answer another question, and then I'm not sure we'll have time for Q&A, but we will address all the questions that we are receiving and answer them later on. So can you please elaborate a little bit more about the most important or most crucial challenges for the Singaporean startups in the alternative protein area? What they have to deal with? What will be the most important part to overcome when they are developing their products?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the key challenges that they face during the whole process is the manufacturing portion, because they do create very good prototype in their lab or even pilot scale, but looking to manufacturing scale is typically the key challenge or hurdle that they have to face. So what we do is we do have to work with different co-manufacturers in Singapore and see how we can work with them in terms of using the existing capabilities to recreate to a plant-based product for the companies. So this is something that they typically do, and definitely they have to make sure that the product has no contamination towards meat products, or looking at allergens like the nuts that's looking for. Non-dairy companies, definitely they hope that they don't have any cross contamination of dairy products. So this is always a lot of key consideration to look at, and how do they bring the key ingredients from overseas into Singapore, and also to create the right capacity of our manufacturing here in Singapore. So I think this is really challenging for them, but I know that Singapore has been a very good, have a very good ecosystem where a lot of the core manufacturers are really willing to help the startup companies to venture their first initial production trial and see how they can launch a product in Singapore.
Yeah. Adam, I'm not sure how much time we have, if I have a few other minutes to address another question, or I'm going to summarize the panel.
Yes, you've got another couple of minutes.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, there is another topic that I'm really curious about, and you know, the challenges are many. I mean, the pricing, we didn't spoke about pricing, regulation, but do you think should the governments be more involved in promoting alternative protein, for example, through subsidized to plant-based and cultivate meat manufacturers? That will probably help to solve a very important issue of pricing. So can you give us your opinion on the government's involvement and how they really can advance this area? Neil?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I think governments have so much to do in this field, and Singapore and Israel are actually a bit similar in this regard, that we have very active and supportive governments due to many factors, like our global positioning as startup nations, and the fact that we both export R&D, we both have similar risks and opportunities, like the fact that we have very small local markets that we have to export, and we have food security challenges, and we don't have very big local agriculture industries. Israel currently, and I will let Matthew to elaborate on Singapore perhaps, but in Israel, we are actually advancing a national policy plan to advance alternative proteins. I think everybody probably heard about Prime Minister Netanyahu tasting cultivated meat, appointing a government coordinator for the alternative protein sector in order to make Israel a global powerhouse for alternative protein production. We are currently in the early days of a national policy plan that is involving 10 different ministries, and most importantly, the Israeli Innovation Authority, which is very supportive in funding academic research and early stage innovation. Moving forward, I think Israel and Singapore are currently at the forefront of this global race for alternative protein, but I'm very interested to see how the two countries can be not competitors, but find ways to collaborate. I think the SIRD Foundation is one opportunity. I know that it will be presented tomorrow, a $1 million opportunity for R&D collaboration. Israel has so much to learn from Singapore in terms of regulation. And I think events like what we are seeing today, which is a joint venture by the two governments, will help us connect the two ecosystems and find additional ways to collaborate to win this global race.
Thanks, Neil. Matthew?
Yeah, I guess probably in terms of Singapore point of view, I feel that the government here is very supportive to bring in cell-based products here. Like you have seen in the news that like end of last year, you have seen the sales approval of cell-based chicken in Singapore. So we do see this encouraging way of how government is trying to expedite or helping this cell-based company to be approved here in Singapore has really bring a lot of good response to cell-based company, because they do see hope that they can come over to Singapore and try their products, and they can see a light, probably some light at the end of the tunnel, because they always stuck in a way that no countries wants to approve their South-based product, and they have seen that Singapore is willing to take a big step and being so supportive to them, and they really express a lot of interest and see how they can come over here, work with the agents, SFA, and see how they can push the R&D into a commercialization step. So really happy that we are very supportive to them.
Thank you very much. Yes, we do know that the government of Israel and Singapore are very much involved. And just to summarize this exciting panel, I just want to mention that my love affair with agri-food started as a former farmer. And I would like us to stay with one question. Where are the farmers and the growers? It seems like they left out of this party. So what role they can play and what they can benefit from? I think that this is something that we can't forget and take in consideration. I'm waiting. I can't wait to hear from the startups that are coming after us, and wish all of us a good luck for these 2 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nitza, Matthew, and Nir for those insights. And Nir, I think your comment about let's collaborate, not compete, is a wonderful way to set the tone for what we're talking about here. And I think Nitza, yes, we cannot forget the farmers, the smallholder farmers that fuel this. It was a great panel. You touched on many issues. And as Nitza said, the questions we can't get to right now, we will be answering. And remember to type your questions into the Q&A. So now we're going to get into the pitches. The first of our pitches this afternoon will be Adam Lahav, who is co-founder and chief business officer of Redefine Meat. So Adam, if you'd like to start your video. Nitza,
hey everyone, let me share I cannot share my screen. Can you open the option for me?
Sure, we'll get that sorted. 1 minute.
One sec. Oh, here.
You've got your sharing rights, great.
Yeah. Please let me know when you can see my screen.
I can see an upside down. Yeah. Right.
Exactly what you're supposed to see.
Okay,
so,
go for it.
Thank you very much for hosting us and let me speak in this great event. My name is Adam and I'm acting as the Chief Business Officer and co-founder at Redefine Meat. In the next 5 minutes, I will present you what we do and how we plan to get into the Singaporean market quite soon. And then we'll open it for questions and please feel free to ask whatever you'd like. Basically, what Redefine Meat is doing is making a better meat that is not based on animal, and we're replacing the cow with technology. It is quite established that meat in general, but specifically beef, is a huge industry of $500 billion US, but quite a broken one. The most known fact is the environmental impact, which more than 1 billion cows only for the meat industry consume more water than all humanity combined, has the worst feed to food ratio, and pollutes more than all transportation and vehicle industry together. But there are other challenges with the industry, such as supply chain, such as waste, such as animal cruelty, and we fortunate that other amazing companies like Beyond and Impossible already established that fact and proven that alternative meat and specifically plant-based meat has a huge market opportunity, becoming one of the largest, if not the largest, new industry in the coming decade. And the only problem or challenge with it is that alternative meat is just scratching the surface. And even though in the US, minced meat has quite a high share as an anomaly, we need to remember that most of the meat in the world, both on quantity, but mostly on value, is actually whole muscle and cuts of meat. And meat alternative from technological perspective of the need to mixing at the end and the way you can extrude materials can attend only minced meat today. And you can see it in the products available in the market. And in order to really move the needle, we need to introduce meat alternative in a high quality and high variety like animal-based meat exists today in an all-cut type of products. And this is exactly why we at Redefined Meat developed and now scaling up and manufactured the first alternative steak. This is obviously an actual image, zero processing of our printed meat. We deliver this product using an innovative technology, which is roughly based on 3D printing. We developed the printing machine, the consumable, which are plant-based muscle, plant-based fat, and plant-based blood. Everything is 100% vegan, using a meat 3D printing modeling system that we developed after studying meat for a long time. And using the modeling, the machine knows how to process, texturize, and place the consumables, the ingredients, in order to create an amazing meat experience that your sensory experience really knows it's eating actual meat and not a meat alternative. This technology allows us to innovate on the supply chain aspect as well, using something very common as distributed manufacturing, as placing the machine with meat distributors and retailers. They produce the meat and distribute it through their existing supply chain. We are already 40 people, 14 engineers, actually 5 PhDs. You can see the leadership team here with vast experience in many companies from the food, technology, and printing industries. We built an amazing ecosystem around us with amazing investors such as CPT Capital that are early investor and beyond, Impossible, Memphis Meat, Just, a very large VC in Israel called Hanako, the Beyond distributor and the largest poultry company in Germany, and have some new investors we cannot announce yet on, even some from Singapore. We're working closely and strategically with Givaudan on the meat flavors, and we are backed up by the IIA, the AIT Food, and the Technion in Israel. You can search us up or look in our website on the latest recognitions. We just released a video of a blind tasting of more than 600 people selling 1,000 dishes of our meat in Israel. Because of the COVID, we focus in Israel, but we are looking closely on start selling the meat in Europe and in Singapore in closer to the end of this year. We're already in contact with the SFA, getting initial feedback that this technology will not need any novel food approvals because of using only off-the-shelf plant-based ingredients. And we're already in discussion with some meat distributors in Singapore. If what you've seen and heard interests you, we're looking for investors. Like every startup, we don't have a need for cash. We don't have an open round, but anyone that is interested to contact us and start the relationship, feel free to approach us later on in the session. And obviously, we're looking for go-to-market partners, meat distributors, retailers in Singapore that would like to partner with us and distribute the meat into the Singaporean and rest of Asia markets. Please feel free to contact us, and we'll be happy to share more on what we do and how much we love meat and how we're going to change the meat industry in the coming years. Thank you very much for your time, and you can ask any question you feel free.
Thank you, Adam. That was great. We're very excited. As you said a number of times during your presentation, you've got your eyes on Singapore, so we really look forward to welcoming you later this year. I guess my first question might be, you're saying that you don't have an open round, but you are looking for lots of partners. What's most probably the biggest obstacle that you feel that you have to conquer to start getting the traction that you'd like to see?
Actually, the traction that exists is quite amazing. When we started, people thought we were crazy and told us that butchers and meat companies will throw out us off the door. But we actually see that most of them really embrace the change and truly believe that what they did for the last 3 or 4 generations, basing their business only on slaughtering animal, has to change if they want their kids to work in the same business. I think that the biggest obstacle currently is to finalize the scaling up of technology. We're currently building a pilot factory in Israel and finishing the machines, and scaling up the business into countries like Singapore is a challenge for any company. It requires significant funding and increasing the team significantly. And this is what we're focusing on in the next few months before installing the first machines in Europe and Asia during Q4.
Okay, there are 2 questions that I'll combine from the audience. One about how scalable 3D tech is for centralized manufacturing. And as a kind of companion question, what sort of consumer research have you done in terms of how do consumers feel about 3D printed meat?
Okay. Those are 2 very good.
Yeah.
So those are very 2 good questions. I'll start with the first. So scaling up is actually quite easy. There are several vectors in which you can scale up. You can simply install more machines. Our machine is printing 10 kilograms of meat per hour, which is quite a lot. If you calculate it only compared to the loin parts of a cow, it's practically printing a cow a day. We know already as a fact that we can scale up the speed of the machine to practically any speed required. The only factor to balance is the bill of material or the cost of machine to the productivity, but definitely we can both scale up a single machine or install more machines. This is discussions we're doing with partners and know how to support very well from the technological perspective. Regarding the second question on the consumer perception, you need to remember that this session and generally speaking, the branding these days are more towards the partners. It doesn't mean we'll put the 3D printing at the front of marketing to consumers. You usually don't know how companies do your sausages or how companies do your meat, or you don't see them slaughter your cow before you purchase your steak in the supermarket. This technology is actually digital, clean, controlled, transparent. You know each ingredient getting in, each product getting out. I think it's much better than the traditional way we do cow from perception perspective, but definitely some market education will be required to introduce those products.
Okay, we're at time, Adam, for your session, but what I'd like to ask a favor of you, you can see some of the questions in the chat. If you've got the opportunity and time to answer some of those questions. And secondly, folks, if you haven't had your questions answered at the moment, when we move to the networking section, you'd be able to go in and speak to Adam and put those questions to him directly.
Absolutely.
If he hasn't been able to answer them. So thank you again, Adam. I've seen your presentation once before, actually, here in Singapore. So it's great to see you again. Thank you so much for participating. So now, next up, we have actually a company that's known to many in Singapore, I think, Chickpea. Ron Klein, who's the Chief Executive Officer, will be taking us through. So Ron, if you could turn on your video. I hope you've been admitted to the room. Right, I think, yes, Ron's just starting. Sharing, hi.
Hi, can you see me?
I can, Ron, good to see you.
Hi, very happy to be here.
Can you see also the presentation?
I can, Ron. So let's start the clock.
Okay.
And we'll go from here.
Okay. Right. So wait. So as you said, we are Chickpea, and I'm very happy to be here. We are not new to Singapore. We have partners and shareholders in Singapore. We are part of a Growthwell Group and Temasek behind it. And actually what we are doing, we're producing and selling chickpea isolate protein powder, which is 90% protein contained. And as I said before, we are selling a product for the food industry, and we are looking on a pure plant protein. And the pure plant protein is mainly on taste for the food industry. On top of that, our product is have a neutral color, neutral odor, which make it more applicable in many products for the industry. We also a green crop. We are non-allergen, and we don't have any phytoestrogen inside the product. And actually, our product is being used and can be used in a lot of food application, which I want to share with you today. We are in many segments, so I'll go through some of the segments. In the dairy alternative, our clients actually are using our product to produce yogurt, very good milk. We don't see over here, but very good chocolate milk, milk that can be used in coffee, and it's act very good in coffee. It's the same as regular milk. We also being used in confectionery, popsicles, chocolates, etc. Egg replacer in pastry, the taste, the biting, the way it's act, the way the producer can use our product in their production plant and make it easier for them to produce a very high level product that the consumer actually buying and almost cannot feel the difference between non-vegan product. We are using the same in mayonnaise, which the same shelf life, taste, texture is excellent. And I want also to share with you, I hope this can be seen. One of our customers prepare side up. You can see it looks like the regular non-vegan product. It's a pity that I need to share with you this in some kind of presentation. We're talking about food at the end, and the food you need to taste, you need to feel, you need to put it in your mouth and have the great feeling how the product is being acted, and actually resume a regular product and non-plant-based product. I will be happy to answer question. As I said before, we already are running in the market. We have the capacity to produce about 10 metric tons of our product a day. We already start selling, and we already in regarding to this to today, we already exist in the Singapore market, but we really would like to go further and scale up. And now I'm really open to any question you have.
Okay, I'll take the first questions while people are piling in. In terms of the scale up, what are the steps that you foresee, particularly say in this part of the world, the type of partners that you're perhaps looking for? Obviously with Growthwell, you have a great partner here in Singapore already. What else would you be looking for here in Singapore and the region?
I think that the two main issues are looking in the region, actually three. We're using a technology that was developed in the Hebrew University, and we are doing some joint ventures and some more developing things, part of them with our partners in Singapore, and for sure we want to do more. We think that the technology that we have, that we used on chickpea can be used in some other legumes, and this is a great opportunity. On top of that, the next phase for scaling up is actually taking care of the cost. For the time being, the cost is a little bit high, so we mainly goes into premium products. And in order to go much wider, much stronger, and in more capacity, one of the things that we need to do is to take care of the cost, and we have a roadmap for that. I think that in the next 18 to 24 months, we're going to do a huge leap and be able to also to take care of this issue and then grow the market much bigger.
Okay, picking up on one of the participants' questions, the challenges in terms of formulation of the product as you scale. What are the challenges in formulation?
I guess you're talking about our product, not the product that is being used, our ingredient inside. I think that one of the things, as I mentioned, is to have more variety of the product. I didn't mention it before, but we started, actually Professor Reifen that started this project like 25 years ago, has a dream to use chickpea as the base for basic food. I don't know how much you know about chickpea, but chickpea is a kind of a superfood from nutritional point of view. And one of the things that we are doing is actually we're taking apart the chickpea in a way that we are keeping the good nutritional and the good applicability side of each of the product. We are now concentrate in the protein, but we have a very good starch as well, and fibers, etc. And one of the things we are going to do in the next future is to combine those fractions that we're doing in the process and divide it into a new some kind of formulas that can fit a different markets or different segment in the market. I didn't show in my presentation the meat or the sea alternative market that we are inside this market, as well as pet food with a huge market worldwide. So this is what we are doing.
Also, another question there that you might see on screen is the protein content and nutritional profile of chickpea milk compared to regular milk. Now, you know, what is regular milk? Obviously, there's different milks, but how do you stand up protein content of chickpea-based milk compared to regular milk?
So again, this is a product of one of our customers that is doing, but the profile is the same, meaning the percentage of protein inside the product is something between 3 to 4% protein, the same as in milk. You know, if you look in some other plant protein or plant-based milk that you see in the market, which contain almost none of protein, we are in a product that contain protein. And also looking on the protein itself, the protein that we have is complete protein, meaning we have all the essential amino acid in the level that need to be based on the World Organization. And meaning that from nutritional point of view, we are almost 1-to-1. And I think that most important, you know, if you want someone to drink your milk, the drink need to be with a great taste and also with great functionality. Meaning, if you pour your milk, the usage of milk is either, you know, either you drink it as is, or you put it in your cereal morning, or you drink it in your coffee. These are the most thing that you do with milk. And if you want to put your milk in the coffee, it should be very excellent. Not, you know, you don't see signs of it's getting apart, like you see some of the other plant milk that in the market. And as you saw in the picture, it's acting as if it's a regular milk.
Okay, we're just time for a quick one. Which type of chickpea are you using?
Which type of, sorry?
Which type of chickpea are you using?
For the time being, we're using Kabuli.
Okay.
We are doing some development and research on Desi, but for the time being, we're only using Kabuli, and we're using in different location. Also for the future, we're doing some kind of looking for the perfect seed that we would like to use in the sense of the level of protein and other nutritional ingredient inside.
Great. Thank you for being so open with those answers, Ron. As you can see in the chat, there are quite a few questions and wanting to do some comparison and sort of diving into the detail. But it's great that we know that Growthwell is working with you as an investor. So we look forward to seeing more of you here in Singapore. So please answer those questions if you have time. And again, folks, if we didn't get to your question, remember the networking section in a few moments' time. Now, our next presenter is from Cura, Leo Rigler, who's Director of Sales and Business Development. I think you're online, are you, Leo?
Yes, Adam, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you're ready, do you want to bring up your slides?
Yes, yes.
I think they're just about to come up. There you go. Put them into presentation view.
Can you see that?
I can see, yes, good to go.
Perfect. Thank you, Adam. Thank you. Hi, guys. Welcome to Sikura's Seaweed Revolution. My name is Leo Rigler, and I'm Sikura's Director of Sales and Business Development. Now, Sikura was established in 2007 out of a pure love of the ocean, nearly for the purpose of growing macroalgae on land-based pools in a clean environment and in compliance with strict international quality and safety standards. Now, Sikura's innovative method replaces the traditional method of harvesting seaweeds from the open ocean. Behind the brand, we have 13 years of R&D, the result of cooperation with the University of Maryland, Professor Yonatan Zohar, Dr. Michael Friedlander, and Dr. Yossi Tal, our CTO. Now, the company's vision is of creating a sustainable ecosystem which supports the ocean, its inhabitants, and man's well-being, all the while remaining vigilant about nature and the environment. This is what we call our global expansion. Now, in these uncertain times where it seems COVID-19 controls our everyday lives, Sikura continues on growing unparalleled quality macroalgae, which are the primal basis, we believe, of whole food and nutrients known to men. We at Sikura have developed a unique technology patent, mind you, whereby the seaweeds are grown on land-based pools in a fully organic and controlled, monitored environment. Seawater are pumped from the depth of the ocean and undergoes a special ecological process in order to remove pollutants and heavy metals. Our growing methods allow our seaweed to remain free of pesticides and biological pollutants. Now, in order to preserve the ecological balance and the marine environment, at the end of each growth cycle, we return clean water to the sea. We believe that our technology will be an inseparable component of the global industry as a whole in the not so distant future, all the while preserving nature's ecological balance. And now, seaweeds, as you might know, is the fastest growing biomass in our planet, using only photosynthesis as the most efficient way to capture CO2. Now, we calculated that each ton of wet seaweed is absorbing 120 kgs of CO2, 2 kgs of nitrogen, and 0.2 kgs of phosphorus. On top of that, our seaweed application often replaces fossil-based fuel products like synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, and can result in a reduction in methane emissions feed, therefore providing a scalable offsetting facilities to businesses. Now, we sell our premium products as raw materials in several forms, as you can see here: fresh frozen, dry powder, and freeze-dry, and dry flakes into several industries. Needless to say, we are EU organic, USDA, GMO-free, kosher, vegan-friendly. We have BRC, we go under BRCAA, and we're very proud of. And with Sikura's unparalleled tech, you get premium quality seaweeds. Now you can see these nutritional values of 30% here on both of our products, which we grow ulva and gracilaria. Now, as you might know, seaweed contains whole protein, just like meat, but, and you can see here, it surpasses animal-based protein. As in our ulva, we have all 20 amino acids, essential amino acids. And you can see here. Now, the company is active in several segments, such as the culinary, supplement, and cosmetic industries, but also we found that our seaweeds are rich with agarose and minerals, pigments, and protein, all of which we can extract. We joined forces with the multinational companies and manufacturers to showcase the ability of our raw materials in various products. And for example, we use Israel as a beta site for a line of unique algae-based dietary supplements as a whole food vegan option. Now, these lines are giving us the answer for a worldwide iodine deficiency problem that was announced by the World Health Organization. And in less than 2 years, we found out that we're already in 500 sales points across Israel and showing great numbers. Now, we are looking for a strong strategic partner that shares a similar vision of clean earth and healthy living, who will join us in a journey for our seaweed revolution. We at Sikura wish you and your loved ones all the best, and please stay safe and don't hesitate to contact me afterwards in the networking section. Adam?
Thank you, Leo. That was great. Just one of the first questions I've just popped up here is people often have an impression of algae as just not being appealing. Let's face it, people have an image, they've seen it on the seaside, and it's the kind of thing of both color, texture, and the taste of what people imagine. How do we get over that? And obviously it is determined by what products it's an ingredient in. But there's still, when people know algae's inside, how do we deal with that sort of consumer resistance?
So first of all, you're right, Adam. The learning curve of a population is quite, it's the major obstacle that we in Sikura had in previous years. There's no doubt that Singapore is far more advanced in that term, because in Israel, when you tell people algae, they automatically think of sushi or something gross in the water. But and we had to change that. So we really collaborated with the local food manufacturers and other businesses, like even with restaurants, and gave them the raw materials to use in their products, and they implemented the raw materials in vegan mayonnaise and pastries, and even not only for human consumption, but also for a pet food. And for example, they're making cakes with the ulva, and yes, the taste factor is an issue, but with specific extracts, you can dilute the taste, you can make it tasteless, and you can still maintain the protein levels and the vitamins and minerals. It is an obstacle, but it's tackleable.
Like everything. I mean, some people feel that, well, then you have to spend a lot of time masking the taste, and are we then introducing something that has a negative that we don't want to do? I mean, there's another question here, which is, it's a hard one to answer. What's the global market for seaweed? It's huge, but how do you respond to those questions?
Well, we try to teach. Well, the global market is huge. Yeah. It's huge, especially in Asia. Asia has a huge history and a long history of eating seaweeds, yes. And the Western world is not really familiar with that, but it's changing. I mean, I try to separate between the sushi market and these algae that are sold in the sushi fields, and the rest of the seaweed world, because seaweeds are huge, and we have to differentiate between microalgae and macroalgae. And just to give you an example, the USA alone, the US market is estimated at $5 billion without the sushi. So that's just to give you a glimpse of what's available. But European markets, we found that the European markets are really acceptance of new products. We have quite an impressive sales record in Italy, a very traditional country. Yes. Is buying our seaweeds because they appreciate high quality raw ingredients, raw materials as ingredients in their food.
And what are some examples of the food that it ends up in Italy?
Well, pastries, pasta, gnocchi, and one of our major customers is using them for it's called frittelle. It's a piece of dough that's deep fried, and in order to give it this fishy taste, they use the seaweeds, but also the added value that comes with the seaweeds.
Yeah. And one final question, if I may, around, you talk about pumping the seaweed water, the seawater into the tanks. Now, obviously there's an energy issue related to the pumping and then pumping back fresh water. How does that affect your overall cost profile and scalability?
Well, yeah, scalability is the one of the major hurdles when it comes to on-land farming for seaweeds. The thing is that we actually wrote a patent on this specific issue of pumping the seawater, and we have a special technique that we use that not only enables us to be I would say near zero carbon footprint, and enables us to tackle exactly this specific question. And for that, Adam, I will need to sign an NDA with you because you're asking too many questions.
Okay, well, let's let that's a great spot to leave it. Thank you so much, Lior. And as I said to everybody, by all means, you can chat in the networking sessions.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us, and see you later. Now, a name that many of you may be familiar with, Aleph Farms, is up next. And we have Gary Brenner joining us, who's the VP of Product and Market Development. So, Gary, are you online?
I'm online, and I think I succeeded.
You did, and I can see you, and I can see that you're about to, and your slides are up.
Good.
So thank you for joining us, Gary. We're looking very much forward to your presentation. So if you're ready.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and I appreciate, we appreciate the invitation. Singapore is definitely an important stepping stone in the developments of Aleph Farm, and we hope to be seeing you very soon again, COVID permitting. The need, as we see it, and I think all of the participants in this Congress, this summit see, is the growing climate change and the growing populations. And while we talk often in these recent years about plant-based meat, the fact is that most of the population, and particularly emerging economies, are choosing to eat meat. And we believe that there has to be a solution which offers meat, healthy, nutritious, tasty, affordable meat products, which are still in sync with the climate and the needs of our planet. And this has been a focus of Aleph Farm. Not only the technologies and the product itself that we're developing and are well advanced in developing after 2-3 years of being in existence, but the fact that we're actually meeting these needs across all of the key platforms. I want to distinguish here also, because it's been mentioned before, that Aleph Farm is not in the category of the plant-based replacements, but in the category, in fact, of cell-grown cultivated meat. Some people call it cell-cultured meat, and there's been a lot of usages of the terminologies in different countries and in different languages. And our focus is to develop a scaled up production platform in order to achieve cost parity with conventional meat products, as well as to meet the challenges we're facing when it comes to regulatory approvals. In fact, we're already in advanced discussions with United States FDA and the Department of Agriculture, as well as with the Singapore Food Agency, SFA. And so we believe that these are achievable goals, both in terms of scalability and in terms of regulatory approval. Our meat is coming from natural tissue cells of a healthy animal, a healthy cow. The process that we're using, the components are all non-GMO. The cells are not immortalized. And therefore, we believe that both from a regulatory point of view and from a consumer point of view in the future, cultivated meat is definitely going to be an option. The focus is of Olive Farm is on whole muscle structured steaks. Right now, a thin cut meat and eventually a much thicker cut meat. We have already completed both lab scale prototype as well as a commercial prototype, which we demonstrated in Singapore last November at the Agri-Food Summit. And we believe that whole muscle steak meat is the holy grail, as is written, for cultivated meat. And that's what we're targeting. We have a very large team of about 35, 40 people, most of them PhDs, but who are not only educated in biotechnology, but how we can use these tissue cells, grow these tissue cells in such a way that they're designed specifically for tasting for meat products. We isolate the pluripotent cells, as I said, not immortalized cells, from a healthy cow without actually harming the animal. And that's very important from the perspective and the vision of Olive Farms. So that basically, if you want to imagine what a future facility, what we call biofarm, it's a trademark name by Olive Farms, it would look something like a yogurt facility, like in this photograph, which is to say wholly enclosed, completely clean, untouched by human hands, and computer controlled. So these are very, very important factors, and we see particularly in the last year of the coronavirus, where meat factories are facing major challenges of pathogens and contaminations, and so on and so forth. This is not going to be a challenge faced by Olive Farms. Where do we stand today? The company was established in 2017 by the Kitchen Incubator in Israel and the Strauss Group and the Technion Institute. As I said, we've completed the first prototype in December of 2018 and the commercial prototype last November. We are now constructing the first pilot plant here in Israel and in the process of designing two mid-sized facilities, biofarms, which will be built in Singapore and in Switzerland. And these mid-sized facilities, biofarms, should be completed by the end of 2022. We are already in discussions with potential strategic partners, have 5 signed MOUs in addition to our initial strategic investors, Cargill, and in the United States, and Migros in Switzerland. And we've announced the first of these strategic partnerships under an MOU with Mitsubishi, the Mitsubishi Food Industry Group in Japan. The initial stages of these MOUs have to do with both evaluating consumer acceptance as well as regulatory pathways. So the challenges are still, some of them we have achieved, many of them we have achieved, but of course scaling up is a critical issue, reducing the costs of the growth media, and many of those challenges will be completed in the next few years, and ultimately with the final scale up in large biofarm facilities, we will be able to supply locally. The marketing challenge, we've engaged in a number of consumer studies in Europe, in United States, in Asia, and are still conducting other ones at this particular time. And we're learning that there actually are differences between different consumer attitudes, what they know, what they don't know, what their concerns are, and so on and so forth. On the Farm differentiates itself from the plant-based in the sense that we're an extension of the meat industry. In fact, most of our partners today are companies that are well rooted in the meat industries, leading players who have see cultivated meat, cell-grown cultivated meat as an extension of their core businesses. And that's why they're speaking with us, and that's why they're partnering with us. And they see the importance of the growing populations and the need to be able to provide meat sources from other than slaughtering of animals. Our vision has us building biofarms locally and supplying locally. This is part of our understanding of the sustainability and the need to reduce transportation of food products. Asia is a clear target for us as a launching pad, but also in Latin America and Europe and in the United States. We expect to have our facilities carbon neutral by 2025 and completed by 2030. We're not only supplying meat and plan to supply meat on this planet, but also in outer space. And here is our team. Thank you very much.
Wow, thanks for giving such a sort of a detailed and long-term view. In terms of, I guess you said you've got a team of, was it somewhere between 30 and 40 people at the moment. How do you find the challenge of getting the right talent in such an emerging area that is developing? And also, let's face it, there's lots of other people trying to get into this space. Are you finding a real war for talent?
For talent? No.
No?
I think that we've put together and our VP of R&D and CEO have put together what I consider to be a brilliant team. I myself have about 30 years of experience in the food ingredients and food tech, ag-food tech industries. And I haven't quite met a group of people like I have the pleasure of working with in other farms. Competition is good. And the fact that there's so many players out there in trying different aspects of cultivated meat, whether it's fish or poultry or pork or lamb, and ourselves beef, and soon we will also be working on lamb meat, we think is a plus. At the end of the day, we have to feed 10 billion people.
Right. Yeah. No, listen, I think you're absolutely right. I did let you speak a little longer in your presentation, so I'm actually exercising captain's call, and so I'm reducing the questions here. There are many questions. People are wanting to understand more about the actual process, how capital intensive it is, and a few questions that maybe you'd actually want an NDA before you'd answer them. But I'll let the people come visit you in the networking session, if I may, Gary. And we're going to move on to our final presenter in this segment, Dror Tamir from Hargol Food Tech. Dror is co-founder and CEO, and I hope you're online. Thanks again, Gary. Dror, are you nearby? You may be on mute, I'm not sure.
No, I'm here.
Great. Okay, there you are. I can see you. Now let's share your slide.
Excellent.
Get into it.
Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. My name is Dror Tamir. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Hargol Food Tech, and we are the first company in the world to produce alternative protein from grasshoppers on commercial scale. We all know that global demand for protein is expected to double over the coming decades, and we are also aware to the fact that existing protein sources are reaching their limitations. So we are aware to the fact that there is a race in the world to develop alternative protein sources, but these new sources suffer from their own set of limitations. Hargel's mission from day one was to deliver a better protein alternative, a healthier protein for humans, a healthier protein for the environment, and with a process that is safer and more efficient. And we find grasshoppers as the perfect alternative. Just to show you how efficient grasshoppers are, 100% of the animal grinded into powder requires 3 spoons to provide the entire protein daily intake of an adult person. And that's incredible. And grasshoppers provide many other benefits to the consumers beyond that. They contain over 70% whole protein, and they are nutrient rich in omega-3, omega-6, omega-9, iron, zinc, folic acid, calcium, chitin, and many more vitamins. In terms of taste and flavor, this is the perfect ingredient for the food and beverage industry to work with because they are almost neutral and they can be just blended into other products with no additional processing. Genetically wise, this is the perfect animal when you look at intensive farming. They have a tendency to swarm and you can grow large quantities of them dense together. Let's talk about the environment because many of the other speakers did. To produce the same amount of biomass as beef, grasshoppers reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 99%, reduce water consumption by 1,000 times, and reduce arable land usage by 1,500 times. In that same biomass, grasshoppers contain 8 times more protein than beef, and that's incredible. But I think what is more incredible are the health benefits that the grasshopper nutrients provide to humans. We are collaborating with leading researchers from the Hebrew University in Israel, the Weizmann Institute in Israel, and the University of Munich in Germany. And from preliminary results, we already know that the grasshopper protein support growth of children, at least as good as casein or soy, which are the gold standard. They improve metabolism by reducing sugar and cholesterol levels faster, so they have the potential to prevent diabetes. They reduce body fat. They strengthen the immune system, which is super important now with COVID around us, and they have many other benefits. Grasshoppers also have existing markets. This is the most widely eaten insect in the world, consumed by over 1 billion people across Africa, Asia, Central America, and the Middle East. They enjoy very high demand, very high prices, and the problem is actually the supply, which is limited to 4 weeks a year. This is also the only kosher and halal insect, and Hargol Foodtech is the first and only insect farm in the world that obtained a kosher permit. Regulatory-wise, this is the only insect that is approved both as food and feed all over the world. And the reason for that is actually the next advantage. Grasshopper protein is the safest and cleanest protein source you can find out there. Grasshoppers are so efficient to produce. We do not use any hormones or antibiotics, and this is a non-GMO product. And of course, we cannot use fertilizers and pesticides in the process because it will harm the animals. So we can actually claim that the grasshopper protein is more humane to produce than any vegan protein. And just remember, in order to grow the plants, farmers have to use pesticides to kill the insects, and they kill trillions of them. Hargol Foodtech today is the global leader in grasshopper protein production, and we do that with a technology that we implemented in our production facilities in Israel. This contains a climate control environment that enables us to grow them year-round at a very high and constant quality. It also contains an accelerated incubation of the eggs. We managed to reduce the incubation period from 40 weeks to 2 weeks and increase the number of annual life cycles from 1 to 10. And our innovative cage infrastructure enables us to grow them vertically and increase production per square feet by 10 times. Additional technologies that we reach proof of concept with includes the development of new grasshopper breeds. The first breed that we call Blondie is actually ready for commercialization. The second part, we managed to educate the grasshoppers to feed on dry feed instead of wet grass, which reduces the feed cost by 97% and the labor cost by 50%, and eventually makes us the most efficient animal-based protein out there. This is the farm. What you can see here is the world's first commercial grasshopper production facility in the world. And the basic infrastructure of the company is based on the poultry industry, which means we have breeding facilities, incubators, and fattening facilities. The management team of the company is well diversified and experienced in entomology, food regulation, marketing, strategy, and finance. What we offer to the market is our Pro 72 nutrient-rich protein ingredient as an ingredient for the food industry. And just to show you how big the potential is, this is a report by Barclays Bank that expects the edible insect market in Europe and the US alone to reach $8 billion by the end of the decade. Hargol, with its innovative animal and technology, is best positioned to lead that industry. And I'm not talking about the future. The future is here, is now. Leading food brands and retailers in the US and Europe are already offering insect-based products on their shelves. Just to show you how ready we are, this is just a sample of the applications that we already have in the form of a prototype or are already in the market based on the grasshopper protein. Our strategy reaching that market is through joint ventures with leading food producers in a variety of sectors. And you can see the leading names from China, US, and Israel that we work with. That's the story in a nutshell of Hargol FoodTech, and I'll be happy to take any question you have and even offer you a very exciting bite from the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you're absolutely right. It is very exciting, as you've outlined very clearly. We know what the problems are, the challenges, and you're providing a solution and also a market that others are agreeing with you that's going to accelerate. I guess kind of the continuing question that you get all the time, I'm sure, there's that kind of ickiness factor of, oh, you know, people in the West don't eat insects in the same way that we may in Asia or Africa. How do you see you getting over that in European markets?
That's a great question, and that's the main challenge for the insect industry in Europe and the US. And I think the slide that is in front of me actually explains how we're going to do it. First, you don't need to show the animal. You can just blend it into a wide range of food products. And you see this gummy bear, that's an amazing nutritional supplement. It contains folic acid, omega-3, iron, zinc, and the protein that pregnant women need. If you look at the bottom, you see a pan with meatballs. And just to explain what you see in the photo, the top four that have a white color, that's poultry, that's chicken meatballs. When we blend the chicken meat with the grasshopper meat, we get something that looks more like beef and tastes exactly like beef with no additional processing. So this is a product that enables you to reduce the impact on the environment. And the last part of dealing with the yak factor is actually we are collaborating with the leading food producers. This is a big task. We need to educate consumers. So we are working with the leading brands to educate the market.
Sure. And also, again, with emerging products, or perhaps not emerging products, is always the offtake. How do you guarantee the sort of the quantity requirements and the quality of the quantity so that you can ensure that you can meet supply? So again, comes back to the kind of scale questions. Obviously, there's the breeding. There was another question you perhaps can answer at the same time. How did you get down from 40 weeks to 2 weeks in terms of incubation? So how do you propose getting the volumes to meet the demand?
That's two great questions, but completely different ones. Let me answer the volumes. What you see behind me is actually the basic production unit. This is a unit that today can produce 20 tons of grasshoppers annually. And by the end of 2021, with the implementation of additional technologies, we'll be producing up to 60 tons of grasshoppers annually. The entire infrastructure of the company is modular and can be easily duplicated. It takes us less than 6 months to establish a new farm from the moment we start until it is up and running commercially. We can scale up as fast as the market demand. It's just a matter of funds and building more farms, and the expenditure is not that high. So we are ready to meet any demand. Regarding the question of reducing the incubation period, well, all insects have a mechanism, most insects have a mechanism that tells the eggs when to hatch, mainly when there is food outside. So you can work on that mechanism and signal the eggs there is food outside, and instead of hatching after 9 months, they hatch in our incubators after 2 weeks. It's not easy to get that mechanism, but once you get it, you can not only accelerate the incubation, you can also synchronize the hatching of the egg, which is actually the main challenge. And we can synchronize tens of millions of grasshoppers to hatch together. And that's the main key of us scaling up.
Great. And again, there are lots more questions there, but we're now going to move into the networking section. So folks who haven't had their questions answered, here's the great opportunity to go and speak to Drew in the networking session. So folks, just so you know how we're going to get you into the networking, I'm just going to quickly take you through the process. So there's some slides are going to come up. But what you need to do now is you will actually ultimately leave this Zoom session and you'll go into another Zoom session. In the chat to the right of your screen, there is a link. Now, if you look at the link on the side there where it has www.israelsingaporeagrifood.com networking, if you click on that link, that will bring up the slide you're about to see, which is this slide. So you click on the link in the chat, then you see Meet the Showcase Companies. Then you go down, and we're in the alternative protein section at the moment. The other showcases aren't ready to meet you. And then you simply would click, if you want to redefine meet, you click on join the meeting, and then that will take you to another screen, and it's going to you'll click here in the normal way you do with a Zoom, and you will get a message that says, do you want to leave the prior session or the current session? And you say yes. You then go into the room. You will be admitted by the host, the startup that is hosting that room. They will admit you. As we have close to 300 people online today, it's going to take a little bit of time to admit some of the people, so please be patient. You'll then go into the room and you'll be able to ask questions. You may choose at that time just to decide that you want to make an appointment to see people one-on-one. And as you can see on the slide in front of you, oops, it's just gone. But if we went back to that slide, Malay, if we could go back, you can see if you're interested in a one-on-one meeting, you can contact my colleague, Chin at padang.co. And he can set up a one-on-one. But what we're going to do over the next while is go into the networking sessions, meet with the folks. So you click on, firstly, the link in the chat, which will take you to this slide. You then link. Now, we might be a bit short of time to do more than one networking room, but if you want to leave that room, you come back out, you go back to this slide via the link, and then you click into the next meeting. Then to come back to our next session, which starts Singapore time, 4:25, which is Israel time, 10:25 a.m., 4:25 Singapore time, we will start the aquaculture panel. To get back to the main session, you use the link that you joined with us today when you came in at 2:30, the link that is in your confirmation email from Durrani. So anyone who's got any questions, is not going into the networking session, I'll be hosting this room over the next period of time, but we'll be starting the next session. Actually, it'll be closer to 4:30 our time, so in about 15 minutes or so time. So now is the time to click on the link in the chat, or if you don't want to go to the networking, by all means, stay in this session as you are now, and you can just obviously wait till we start the next session. Or if you have any questions, you can type questions into the chat. Folks, just to let you know that we'll be coming back and starting the aquaculture session in 7 minutes time, which is 4:30 p.m. Singapore time. So we'll be starting again in 7 minutes. Thank you. Okay, we're just on 4:30. So Hannah, if you perhaps get ready to unmute yourself. Thank you for coming back, folks. I know a number of you went off into the networking sessions, and some of you are most probably still there. We are recording this session, so you will be able to catch up on the wisdom of this panel. but look forward to the rest of you coming back, and those that have stayed. I hope you've had a quick bio break and ready for some more. I think we had a great introduction to this afternoon with the panels and the discussions that we've had, and of course some really interesting pictures. And you know, what's great to hear is the amount of activity that's already happening with a number of the featured startups and scale-ups, what they're already doing with Singapore. So we've got a lot to look forward to. So now I'd like to introduce Alistair Douglas, who will be moderating the next panel for us. Alistair is a senior advisor in innovations ecosystem for Royal DSM. DSM is the Dutch life sciences company, and also Alistair is a director of Smart Aqua. So he is across many of the issues that we are facing in the aquaculture industry. So Alistair, I'd like to hand over to you to introduce your panel and take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Adam, and thank you to the organisers and the panellists here for this aquaculture session. Good morning to those of you in Israel, and good afternoon to those of you joining us here in Singapore. We just, as an open discussion about aquaculture, obviously it's a very important industry. It's going to be a vital industry if we're going to feed the 9 to 10 billion people on the planet by 2050. And so let's just talk about a little bit about aquaculture, and two of the most important factors for a successful aquaculture industry are site and water availability. And to compare and contrast a little bit Israel and Singapore. Singapore has 6 million people, which is 2/3 the population of Israel, but it's only 3.3% the size of Israel. Israel is a dry country, and Singapore receives 4 times the amount of rain per square inch Israel, but doesn't really have much space to basically store and hold that water. The exclusive economic zone of Israel is 24 times the size of Singapore, yet the lengths of their respective coastlines isn't too dissimilar. About 273 kilometres, if I remember correctly, for Israel, and about 193 kilometres in Singapore. Anyway, despite and possibly due to these constraints, both countries have become very innovative in the way that they have and are approaching aquaculture. Indeed, both countries have expertise in water treatment, both have been early investors in genetic selection, and both have food security challenges, as well as a need to farm fish for an economic return as well. So to explore the topic a little bit more deeply today, we're lucky to have with us 2 experts in aquaculture, one from Israel and one based here in Singapore. The first is Dr. Hannah Rosenfeld. She's the director of the National Centre for Mariculture at the Israel Oceanographic and Limnological Research Centre. Hannah has 29 years of experience in mariculture and developing technologies for the efficient breeding of various finfish, including bluefin tuna, which is my first love, grouper, milkfish, and grey mullet. She has established protocols that have been adopted as industry standards in Israel and that have been used in various EU-supported studies. Hannah is currently promoting a national project that combines public-private investments and aims at establishing a controlled land-based breeding centre for scaling up production of high-quality tuna fingerlings, obviously to underpin tuna aquaculture. So also we have with us today Dr. Richard Leboucher, who leads commercial aquaculture strategy at Temasek Life Sciences Laboratory here in Singapore. Prior to his time here, Richard spent 15 years developing innovations in aquaculture R&D projects in 25 countries, such as Chile, Norway, France, USA, Thailand, and China. He completed the development of 15 products in nutrition, mechanics, genetics, optics, software, probiotics, and chemistry. That sort of demonstrates the diversity of the industry. And has collaborated with more than 60 farming companies, transforming ideas into viable businesses. Rich is a food lover, and he's a very good chef, I can testify. He obtained his PhD in fish genetics and nutrition from AgroParisTech, an MBA from École des Ponts, Paris Tech, pardon my French pronunciation, and an engineer's degree in aquaculture from NSAR. So firstly, over to Hannah and then to Richard. Could both of you please provide some background as to how aquaculture has developed in Israel and Singapore respectively, the sorts of species that they started farming and are farming now, and how is the industry in those countries evolving and innovating, sort of both domestically and internationally as well. Hannah, over to you.
Okay, thank you for this nice introduction. As you know, Israel was one of the pioneers in Europe and the region, domesticating marine fish, starting with sea bream. Until 2008, marine culture in Israel was primarily dependent on sea cage culture in the Red Sea, which represented up to 40% of the income of 5 kibbutzim in the southern Arava Valley. Upon the removal of the fish cages from the Gulf of Eilat due to environmental concerns, the feasibility of novel, environmentally friendly strategies to farm fish in offshore and land-based facilities were explored. While the offshore approach was attractive, avoiding conflicts with other users of coastal areas and benefiting high quality water, this venture is relatively costly and needs to resist the rough seas of the Eastern Mediterranean. In answer to this challenge, various Israeli submergible cage designs were tested. These novel cages, when submerged, can avoid the destructive impact of waves during storms and return to the surface during calm seas. The design of the land-based facilities, on the other hand, were challenged with the cost of pumping and returning the effluent to the sea nutrient-free. One of the Israeli design solutions is the megaflow recirculating aquaculture system. There are others, which appear to be quite successful in terms of fish survival growth and stocking density. So I do find that constraints leads to novelty, as you mentioned.
Right. Well, thanks very much for that. Let's move straight over to Richard. Richard, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you well.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you. Very, very pleased to be with you this afternoon. I think the story of Singapore is a bit different but similar, I would say. Same, different. I think it started in 59, around 59, with the primary production department of Singapore, which is the ancestor of Singapore Food Agency. And at this stage, it was really a lot of kelang farm, not exactly farm, but kelang, which was typically fish traps in the north of Singapore. And there was a conversion in the 80s to fish farming, with a growing number of fish farms that we can really call fish farms, with the intensification of production, juveniles buying, feeding, a little bit of genetics. And one of the article I like that is telling part of this story is in 84 on nutrition. In my domain, which is these days of nutrition in Asian sea bass, it's the oldest paper published in Asian sea bass nutrition. And it was done here in Singapore by this primary production department, which is funny when you look at the history after. So after this starts of really research on aquaculture, there was an intensification in research too, with the creation of different centers, research centers. One of them is really the Tropical Marine Research Center on St. John Island with SFA, with the NUS, sorry, at this time. It was in 96, I think. 99, Temasek Life Science Laboratory, which is our team, started to work on aquaculture, genetics, and nutrition. 2001 was the Marine Aquaculture Center on St. John Island. So you see that there is this intensification of research years after years, which led us to 2019 situation with 122 farms in Singapore, mainly in seawater. and inheriting from these research activities and intensifying the production years after years. And this is what we see now is that we're gonna probably talk about that after, but again, a new revolution is happening now with more urban production, more intensification, and globally more food, which is a big target for the country now.
Yeah, no, thank you, Richard. I think you both mentioned the issues around the conflict for space and the challenge, obviously, that you've got rough seas, we've got climate change, picking up wind speeds, we've got more and more shipping and traffic, and specifically, you know, when you look at Singapore, there's a lot of that. And there's this general movement toward land-based aquaculture. Hannah, what's the land-based aquaculture scene like in Israel?
Currently, there are several strategies, the high head and the low head mega flows. We developed the latter and the second option, and it seems very successful and needs to cope with very rigorous legislation, environmental legislation in Israel, particularly at the Red Sea. There is the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development in Israel promotes high development along the Arava, southern Arava Valley, which will focus on land-based. Currently, there is a farm, a big farm at the Negev, using brackish water, which seems to be quite successful in growing barramundi. And there is another one up north in the Bet She'an Valley that also grows barramundi in a different system. So it seems to take place more and more in Israel. And as far as I can see, the part of the recirculating aquaculture systems may contribute both to as specific at a specific time window for extended nursery before sending the fingerlings to the juveniles to the sea cages, improving growing management, and also are able to close entire life cycle up to the market size. And in that case, we need to improve and introduce high value fish species like Seriola, like because for those who are easy to grow in sea cages, it is quite complicated to compete with prices unless you get into a large biomass.
Yeah, and this is the challenge, isn't it? It's growing fish as a food for food security, or is it growing fish for profit and a business concern? I think Singapore has a 30 by 30 initiative. Well, I know it does, which is to be 30% sustainable in terms of its food production, self-sustainable. You know, the challenge with land, Richard, the availability of land in Singapore, there's a big push for urban farming. So can you talk about that? And can you also talk about the role of genetics and how we can improve genetic stock to match these sort of land-based production systems and make best use of the space?
Yeah, the land, I mean, as Hannah mentioned, the land is very important for these two countries. I think it's a big challenge for any agricultural production, any farming. And it's funny you mentioned a RAS system, Anna, because I think we also observed the transition from the RAS 4 nursery, which was quite old system, quite popular system everywhere in the world, especially in research, to production. Now it's the scale up into production of the RAS is something that, as people from the industry, we observed it didn't came from nowhere. It really came from this hatchery systems. And yeah, so the land is a big focus for the projects we are running. I think the ambition is to increase the food, not only productivity. So the intensification is a solution, but it's also a matter to find the places to grow maybe in a new environment, in new conditions. And that's a daily challenge for sure. It's not only about putting more fish, higher density, more oxygen. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. So it's also to find alternative way. And genetic is quite a good solution. It's not the first tool to go to be honest. I think there are many things to cover before targeting genetic as a farming solution. But it's when you have a mature production system and you can benefit from a good genetic strain, then you start really to optimize your system and to get something that can be more sustainable because you convert better, and also more efficient because you convert better and then you produce more. So yeah, and it's true that in Eilat and in Singapore and in many places like that, starting in 90s, the genetic programs, we can benefit from this now. And the challenge is now to make this program sustainable for the future, for the next generation of farmers.
Mm. And is there a focus on just pure getting this right for production in Singapore and Israel, or is there a focus also on getting this right for the region? Is Singapore and Israel looking to supply the aquaculture technologies, the feed, the seed, and infrastructure to their local region? Hannah, would you?
Well, Israel agriculture, as I mentioned earlier, must not only demonstrate innovation and novelty, but be cost effective in the face of strict environmental legislation. As the National Center R&D, the NCM expertise in domesticating a range of species, together with the development of the land-based technology that I mentioned earlier, provides applied solutions to a platform that are no longer limited to the marine arena, which is quite limited, as you mentioned earlier. So innovation and new directions at the NCM has expanded in recent years to include the development of predicted models of fish larval and juvenile yields that utilize state-of-the-art image analysis and manipulation of databases, which facilitate decision-making by the farmers. This is the trend to make it more precise aquaculture. The second item is novel food additives to nutritionally program fish during early development to grow faster and be more robust. We have several IPs that we already developed during the past 2 years. One of the most important aspects that we pay much research attention, particularly which will be integrated in the RAS system, are real-time sensing devices for rapid identifications of pathogens and other aspects. If we already mentioned the health control, so we do aware that we won't be able to compete each pathogen. That's why we try to use generic approach to stimulate both innate and adaptive immune system, building defense against a wide range of pathogenic agents. We put much research effort in algal biotechnology.
Yep.
And the employment of renewable energy and desalination technologies to reduce waste and increase production efficiency and productivity.
All right, thank you. Richard, have you got anything to add to that? We've only got about 4 minutes to go. I have been asked to turn to the audience for questions. While they're asking questions or writing questions down, Richard, do you have anything to add to that at all?
The domain Anna mentioned are really quite the same challenge we're also working on these days, nutrition genetics. Actually, this past month we speeded up a lot of this program really to face the new situation. And yeah, I think now the genetics, nutrition, health systems has never been as active as these days. It's urgent now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so in the absence of any questions right now, I guess if I were the Prime Minister of Israel or Prime Minister of Singapore, and you could ask me, give me a wish list, or better still, if I could write a check for $1 million to both of you, where would you put it? You know, what area really excites you, or what area thinks where there's the greatest need as such? Richard, do you want to go first?
Okay.
It's rubbing his...
That's not a question to ask me. It will last for hours. No, I have not a clear idea. I think I would like to the focus right now of the government is quite good. I mean, we have a situation where the aquaculture challenge is considered, and I think we already benefit from some good energy from the government. I would say that the collaboration with farmers is very important for us, and this is where we actually stand in Temasek Life Science Laboratory. It's between the farmers, the science, and the business.
Yeah.
To really promote this part, which I believe is key for any development of research, of production, and of business. There is a translation to be done.
Richard, a question that's going to come in, that actually talks to that. I'll give Hannah a chance to answer that question. So, if I was a Prime Minister or an investor ready to give you $1 million, Hannah, what would you do?
I will definitely invest in algal biotechnology, both micro and macro algae, since additional to their classic roles as food additives and compounds for pharma and chemical applications, it appears that algae holds great promise as a fantastic platform producing numerous raw material for a wide range of industries, including even textile. And this is largely to the fact that algae can be grown rapidly and sustainably with no demand for fresh water or fertile land that are two limiting factors. And under controlled environment, this platform can produce and ensure high quality product and biological materials. So,
yeah, I have to agree with you, Hannah, on that one.
This is a rising star.
Got time for this question now, Richard. It was how would you balance food security and business case in the context of farmers in Singapore? That's a tough one.
That's a tough one indeed. I think it's really necessary to put the customers in the middle of this question. We need the customers to be trained to also understand where the products are coming from, also in terms of production system. That's really a key. I think there is no, I mean, very limited solutions if this is not done. And so I would probably focus on this.
Okay, thanks.
I
think that's us finished. Is that right, Adam? Are we out of time?
Yes, you are, unfortunately, but still, anyone who's got further questions, please put them in the Q&A, and I'll ask our panelists, Hannah, Richard, and Alistair, to answer any of the questions that pertain to them. But yet again, I think you kind of summed it up, Richard. Looking at Israel and Singapore, same but different. There are a number of interesting parallels and opportunities. And of course, that's the whole point of this conference, is to tease some of those out and see how we can support one another's. And I think really nice that we came back to the end that we are looking at the farmers. And Nitsa actually opened the session when we were talking about alternative proteins and said, let's not forget the smallholder farmers in this. And I think this just brings us back to earth or to water, that we have to remember, how the value chain exists and who all the players are. So thank you, the three of you, for joining us this afternoon. Please stick around, because now we're about to go into the pitches. So I'll ask you to turn your video off, and I'll introduce our first aqua pitch, which is Nissim Chen, who's the founder and CEO of Aquinovo. So Nissim.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Adam.
Hi, great.
I'm here.
Great to have you here.
For whatever reason, the video is not on yet, but I guess it could be done in a minute by the organizer.
Yes, I think I'm sure they're admitting you. I'm hopefully they're. Have you uploaded your slides?
Yeah.
Sharing your screen?
Yeah, I'm sharing the screen. Okay, now
I can see.
Okay, now you see me. Yeah. Okay, great.
I see you, and now we'll wait for the slides. I can hear you well. So.
Okay, just a minute.
Little green button.
Okay, do you see that now?
It's just coming up. Yes, now go into presentation mode, and you'll be good to go.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, it's up in the air, right?
Yes, sir. Away.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much for the invitation to speak here today. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. I'm Nissim Khen from Aquinovo, and I would like to start, although everyone here is, of course, very knowledgeable about aquaculture, but just putting up the main issues that characterize the industry. We are talking about production of healthy food, fish, that requires less resources than any other farmed animals, and a primary or important animal protein source for over 4 billion people worldwide. Now, consumption has grown, considerably in the last few decades, and as of today, we are all eating about 50% of the fish we are all eating is coming from the aquaculture industry, and it's going to be about 60% in 2030. So, it's good news for the industry, right? The industry has grown significantly, but of course, it comes with challenges, it comes with prices, and one of the key challenges is how to sustainably increase fish yield. That's one of the holy grails of the whole modern aquaculture industry, and aquaculture is not exception in that. So this is the challenge that Aquinovo is addressing. We are developing innovative specialty feed additives that addresses this specific challenge, and by having it in the feed, you don't need to change anything in farm practice or in infrastructure, and basically we can we generate or we result in increase in fish yield, therefore fish revenues, and for the farmer, as we discussed early on, it's going to be a higher profit, as I will show in a minute. But more than that, we are going to support, to promote additional important goals such as food security, job security, climate change, and so on. So how do we do all that? The technology is based on non-GMO, non-hormonal proprietary short peptides that are administered to farmed fish in their feed, and in the fish they compete with the endogenous peptide in the digestive tract, eventually leading to higher growth and lower FCR, lower the feed conversion ratio, which means lower production costs, meaning at the end of the day, higher revenues, lower production costs, and higher profit for the fish farm. This is an example of a study we've done in Asia, in red tilapia. We're talking about a large experiment that involved over almost 5,000 fish. We're talking a mixed population of both male and female that received our peptide in their feed for the last 4 months of the growth cycle. And 6 months afterwards, when they were the age of 10 months old, harvested at 800 grams, they showed improved FCR and improved growth cycles, as you see in the graphs next to the picture. And that basically allows us to calculate the value for the fish farm. That means for the fish farm, that means increase in gross profit of up to 50% or even more, depends on the specific parameters used. So this is the power of the technology. This is the power of the feed additive that we are developing. We have done all our studies with tilapia, but since the target receptors exist across the animal kingdom, we see the whole fin fish market, including shrimp and other lucrative aqua species, as our potential market. And if you look on the numbers, and since our additive is going to be in the feed, we are talking about incredible, immense volume and value, both in terms of volume and value of the feed market. So go-to-market strategy is very clear. We're going to manufacture our peptide, sell it to feed companies, who then incorporate it into the feed and sell it onwards to the fish farm. We are going to partners with global partners for specific fish species, both in terms of development and marketing. speaking about the overall value position for the stakeholders, we are talking about innovative ingredients that increase profitability and market for our customers, the feed company, and could be used together with other innovative ingredients. We are speaking about higher yields and higher profit for the fish farm with no change in practice or infrastructure. And since we are using less feed to generate more biomass, we are also talking about less carbon footprint for each fish farm. So all together, it allows us to reduce pressure on life before water, on fishing. It allows us to promote food security, job security, climate change aspects, and the way we are producing our peptides is also promoting some responsible production. The company was established in October 15, and we have since then established our IP position, commercial treatment for tilapia, positive safety data both for the fish, for the environment, for human consumption. We are now working on our fish regulatory dossier for fish territories and the scale up of our commercial production of our peptides. And we have also initiated studies with salmon and carp as additional target species. The company is run by a team that is combining expertise and experience in both fish biology, production of chemical production of peptides and raw materials, and commercialization of early stage technologies. And that's basically it in a nutshell.
Okay. Thank you for that. I think there are a number of questions coming in. I'll jump into those before I go with my questions. You perhaps can see it on the screen, Nissim, taking both anonymous ones, but how well are the peptides uptaken by the fish? Would there be any concerns of peptides that are not taken up by the fish to degrade water quality?
Yeah, we have demonstrated that it's taken up by the fish very rapidly, and it's not accumulating not in the fish and not in the water. So it's not going to affect water quality.
Okay, and then the question around cost profile, which obviously is anything that's new.
Yeah.
What's the cost comparison?
Yeah, the cost is something we are working on because it's mostly dependent on the cost production of the peptide, and peptides are expensive to be produced. Yes. But eventually, we are talking about a very minimal amount of peptide in the feed. We are talking in the range of 5 to 10 ppm. So although it will be expensive, it will be still, considering the impact, it will be still acceptable for the farmer and provide both ROI and higher profit.
Because you said that utilization increased farm profitability by 52%. So yeah, that is taking into account the additional cost. Right. And yes, obviously, if the output is there and the impact is there, one should be prepared to pay more for it. What is sort of the reluctance at the moment, or the level of uptake? Or what are some of the challenges that you're facing?
Well, I think there are two main challenges that we are now looking at, that we're now facing. One is, of course, we have established our production protocol, but we are optimizing it in order to get down in cost as much as possible. And the second one is actually now building the whole regulatory dossier that would give the right, provide a strong case. As basically, when you look on our feed additive, it's not a conventional one. It's a very unique targeted feed additive, and it will need, obviously, to present the full data in order to convince that all those issues of regulatory safety and effect on environment and fish are not existing.
Right. And I noticed in your deck, you looked at your progress over the last couple of years, and it was 2020 was the last year on your slide. What are the plans going forward? What's happening in 21 and the years ahead?
Well, we are now actually moving fast forward as we can in terms of making the fish product out there to the market. and the fifth product would be for tilapia. And yes, indeed, we thought it would be a bit earlier, but then, you know, usually timeline are always needs to be considered again. But we are now mostly focused on putting everything in place for our tilapia product. So we'll be able to launch it sometime by the half two of 2022.
Great. Okay, listen, I think we're just about on time there. So let's call it time. And obviously, folks can come into the networking session and speak to you directly. So thank you for your time, Nissim.
Thank you very much, Adam.
And we'll see you later. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Daganit Vered, Chairwoman of the Board and Business Development of V Aqua Therapeutics. Daganit, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I sure can, and I can see you. So,
great. So I'm going to share my slides real quick.
That's fantastic. They're just coming up, I think. Yeah, they're nearly there. Okay.
A second.
Yep.
We go to slideshow.
Yeah. The floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. I'm Daganit Vered. I'm the chairperson in business development for V Aqua, a biotechnology company that developed a breakthrough oral delivery platform for preventing aquaculture diseases. V Aqua produces products, introduce a great solution for the Asian aquaculture market. Treating diseases is still the #1 challenge in aquaculture, and viral diseases cost the shrimp industry billions of dollars every year. Aquaculture is a fast-growing market and sustainable protein source. Diseases are the biggest limiter for the growth of this market. The developing trend in aquaculture is a transition to recirculated high-density systems, which is expected to increase the disease pressure. One of V Aqua's key goals is to make a positive impact on the world. Our solution is designed to enable sustainable protein source and secured food supply. The white spot virus is an example for globally spread viral disease that continue to hit more and more shrimp farms around the world. WSSV has a devastating impact on the shrimp farmers, wiping up a pond within 7 to 10 days. We harnessed our breakthrough technology to help the aquaculture market reduce the disease impact and chose to develop a solution to WSSV as the first product to market. V Aqua uses RNA technology to promote the shrimp's health and help it cope with the disease. The technology challenge is to deliver the RNA into the shrimp via their feed. V Aqua developed an oral delivery platform tailored for aquaculture and shrimp industry. Our IP-protected technology includes the selection of the relevant RNA sequence, encapsulation of the RNA using innovative formulation, followed by incorporation of the carrier into the shrimp feed. The product is non-GMO, environmentally safe, and made of feed-grade materials. V Aqua feed incorporated product demonstrated efficacy in multiple challenge tests, which showed significant increase in survival. These results showing for the first time that feed-based solution improved the shrimp ability to cope with viral diseases. Our platform will provide collection of solutions for the aquaculture industry, delivering variety of RNA and DNA products to help the aquaculture industry reduce the disease pressure and increase the farmers' profitability. Strategic collaboration is part of the Aqua business approach. Our strategic partner for the first product is Skretting, one of the world's leading aquaculture feed companies. The partnership provides V Aqua a worldwide market and distribution network via Skretting global infrastructure. In the past couple of years, V Aqua has made significant progress toward product launch, repeatedly demonstrating the high survival rate in challenge tests, the stability of the carrier via the feed production process, and scaling up a production process with the cost-effective solutions. Looking forward, we are in the process of scaling up to full scale, completing the regulatory process to be ready for the WSSV product launch. In parallel, Viaqua is pursuing development of additional pipeline solutions. Viaqua has a diverse and experienced leadership team with complementary skills and experience in molecular biology, marine biology, drug delivery, and senior corporate management. Viaqua is looking for facilities to run disease challenge tests to support our product's pipeline development. We are looking for partners to take our future products to market, a fermentation-based company to partner with us on production. We will also be starting our fundraising in 2021 and looking for investors to join our partners. Thank you very much. Shai Ufaz, Viaqua CEO, is also here online, and we are open for questions.
Great. Thank you for that. As you pointed out, a huge market for potential. And I actually saw some familiar friends there in terms of existing partners. So what are your plans for this part of the world?
So we see Asia as one of our biggest markets. If it's India, China, Thailand, Singapore, of course. And we believe that we'll be able to expand our product portfolio to fish, as you could have seen earlier, and by that give good solutions to aquaculture for a variety of species.
And to date, I mean, as always, as you say, you're moving to scale. What are the biggest roadblocks you anticipate at the moment as you move to scale?
So we already developed our product in a pilot scale, and we're already in conversations with several CMOs regarding scaling up our product. We don't see any major hurdle in scaling up our production. It's only a matter of time and technology transfer. We don't think there are many hurdles there.
Right. But in terms of reaction from the industry, where is there sort of conversation, or not perhaps pushback, but any resistance you're seeing there?
I don't see any. We are talking to farmers every once in a while, talking about the connection to the farmers, and we're actually getting calls from farmers in China. We had a recent call with the farmers in India, looking for when are you launching the product? This is hurting us really bad. So I don't think there's going to be much pushback from the industry because the pain is so high. We believe that our product is so environmentally friendly that it will be very, hard to generate a pushback to it. It's not an antibiotic. It's not impacting the environment. Biodegradable. So we really think we have the right solution for the right problem.
Right. And there's a question I'll take from one of the participants, but just reminding other participants, please type your questions into the Q&A box. The question I'll go to now is, what regulatory hurdles might slow things in certain countries? Because as we know, sometimes regulation is the biggest hurdle for a variety of reasons.
So the regulatory path is defined together with our partners, and we have a regulatory strategy which is geographically specific. Different regulatory path might be more suitable for different geographies. And for our future products, it really depends on which product will be first and what will be the right regulatory solution. We believe that, again, this solution is innovative, and we don't expect major hurdles on regulatory right now.
Right. Here's one. Let me just have a look. I don't know if you've seen it on your screen. Does each RNA therapeutic only protect against one type of disease?
So a specific RNA string can affect one virus or multiple virus, depends how it's designed.
Yeah.
So, but we believe that if we treat viral diseases for shrimp, it will probably be a solution for viral diseases for shrimp. Another solution, RNA-based, will be needed for diseases like EHP and so on.
Okay. Well, it's certainly very topical at the moment, looking at RNA. To give us a sense of the scale of investment that you're seeking, if you can.
So regarding the scale, we still did not finalize it with our board, but it's going to be a relatively nice size round B during 2021 to enable us really to push on our production and launch the product. We want to accelerate our product's development, and we believe that by end of 2021, we'll be looking for those additional funds. But as I said, we're open for discussions with the investors now so they can know the company, develop the relationship. We're very open for those conversations as early as now.
Well, that's great. And the opportunity exists for participants to join you and your CEO in the network session. But I'd like to thank you for your participation and look forward to chatting to you later.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, we have Bioefficiency, and joining us from Bioefficiency is Eli Shuby, who is the CEO. So, Eli, are you there? Might be on mute.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, my name is Eli Shuby. Good morning for those in Israel and good afternoon for those in Singapore. Let me share my screen.
Yeah.
This is always some kind of a challenge.
Little green button down the bottom there, can you see it?
Okay, it's easier to grow fish, I guess.
Well said. Well, your screen is up and you're ready to go, Eli.
Can you see the full presentation?
Absolutely. I can see your opening slide in presentation mode, so off you go.
Great. Okay, so my name is Eli Shuby and I'm pleased to be here. I'm the CEO of Bioefficiency. Bioefficiency provides advanced systems for sustainable land-based aquaculture. And we believe in combining experience, technology, and passion. Now we heard all the background and the trends of aquaculture, and I obviously agree with everything. We are in one of the most exciting and most promising industries. So since I only have 5 minutes, with your permission, I'll get straight to the point. Bioefficiency has actually two main offerings. One is water treatment technology, where we have anything from a single off-the-shelf biofilter, which has been developed in Bioefficiency. It's very much innovative compared with the normal biofilters that are big concrete ponds with either moving beds or standing beds. In our case, we talk about off-the-shelf plug-and-play biofilter that was developed in Bioefficiency. So we start from that to a complete high-end zero discharge water treatment for us, which I will spend most of my presentation talking on that. And at the same time, since the company has lots of experience and the people who established the company have tens of years in growing fish in different ways and many species, Bioefficiency also provides end-to-end project management from the very beginning of the project until it reaches successful operation. We believe that this is the key to success, to make sure that the people who manage the project and then takes you hand in hand to success should be experienced, understands aquaculture, and also love growing fish. So when we talk about RAS, as you can see, the system, this is one of our systems. It's a complete kit. It's an off-the-shelf RAF. It includes everything from the biological and mechanical filter, which are bioefficiency's development, through the water tanks, aerators, and all the needed pipes. You get the entire kit, and it takes us about 1 to 2 weeks to install it. So from the moment it reaches the site until it's fully operational, take 2 weeks or so. It's very easy and to install, as I said. Could be either indoor or outdoor, and it comes in different sizes from 120 cubic meters to 1400 cubic meters. Obviously, any species, starting from fish to shrimps, etc. Then we have our large biofilter. This one is also an off-the-shelf, comes in a 40-feet container. It's all in one, starting from the biofilter to the mechanical filter, to the water pump, electrical and control panel. It's a plug and play. You bring it into the site, you connect it, and it starts working. This one comes in 300, 500, or 1,000 kg of feed per day. Now, what I want to show you is something totally different. This is efficiency. Efficiency is a disruptive zero discharge water treatment technology for us that overcomes the inherent drawbacks of biological based systems. I'll try and spend the next few minutes explaining it. So if you look at the RAS, you see the tanks, mechanical filter, biofilter, degazzer, UV disinfection. We replace all of these, the biofilter, the degazzer, and the UV disinfection in one system. The main advantages, first of all, it's biologically stable. Reason is there's no biology here, no bacteria at all. It's fully controlled process and no microbial loads, save on CapEx and on OpEx. Very small footprint compared with a normal biofilter. We eliminate the need for a large size biofilter for the UV and ozone purging, and these denitrification systems all are done in one single cycle on the same system. No off flavor. This is one of the largest and most important advantages of the system. It's more efficient when it comes to energy, and it does all in a single step process. It works on the electrical current. I will be more than happy to explain later on when I have more time. I only have less than a minute, I see. We believe that we can save anything between 10 to 20% on CapEx compared with biological-based water treatment system, and something like 40% on the OpEx compared with the biological-based water treatment system, which in a way equals to about 10% of the fish production cost. It's a lot of money. The system fits not only RAS, but also holding systems, transportation, and wellboats. Again, I will be more than happy to discuss it. Bioefficiency is already passed the POC. We have a very successful pilot system, and we are just about to start a funding round in order to move to the next level of a fully productized system. I hope I made it on the right time.
It's okay, but Ellie, if there's some other remarks you'd just like to make to sort of round out, that's okay. Please speak for another minute if there are other comments that you'd just like to make.
No, I'm okay. I think
Okay,
I'm fine. Yeah.
Good. Now we can go into questions. So there's a participant question I'll take first. You most probably can see it on your screen in the Q&A. What is your preferred mode of collaboration for partners from Singapore, for instance?
So we talk about two different types of collaboration. One is investors, and we obviously would like to see strategic investors who have some knowledge and connections. And the other one is for potential customers, those that have to install RAS or already have RAS and would like to save a certain problem like off flavor. The system can be installed as a standalone purging system. The benefit is that you can still keep on feeding the fish during purging, and then you save the weight loss that always comes with the purging, sometimes to the extent of 10%.
Okay. Perhaps help me to understand what do I look like if I'm a potential customer? You know, what's the size of my operation? What am I trying to do? Just to help folks understand where you're targeting.
I'm sorry, can you please come again? Your voice was breaking.
Sorry, I moved away. I'm just trying to get a picture of your target customer. If I'm a potential customer, what do I look like? You know, the style of my operation, the size, to really warrant to take on your system. You know, what size do I need to be? What type of operation?
Okay, you could either be a RAS vendor, someone who provides the entire RAS and needs to integrate a water system along with tanks and the other equipment. So we would be more than happy to provide the entire water system. We think this is the right way to do it. But at the same time, it could be a RAS vendor who has a certain problem to solve or would like to install such a system. That probably will take a little bit more time.
Right, okay. Another anonymous question's come up. Could you elaborate a little more on the electrical-based treatment technology that you referred to?
Yes, okay, so the system is actually based on it's a known process of when we electrify the water, should be salty water. What happens is that the NaCl is divided into Na and chlorine. The chlorine attacks the ammonia and divert it immediately from ammonia to nitrogen gas. So that's the first thing we do. The other thing we do, we then remove the chlorine. It's in a separated cycle, a batch mode, and not a continuous one. So you get, first of all, you get very clean water, disinfected. So there's no need also for, as I said before, disinfection, and the ammonia removal is very efficient.
Great, okay. Listen, let's round it out there, and any other questions, people can meet with you in the networking session. So thank you very much, Eli, for joining us today, and look forward to seeing you in the networking session. Okay, next up, number 4 out of our 5 this afternoon in aquaculture, we have Gilly Ocean Technology. And presenting this afternoon is Ron Shavit, Business Development Manager. So Ron, if you'd like to turn on your video, we'll get the slides going and get into it.
Hi everyone, can you guys see me?
Hi.
Thank you very much for having us on this great panel. And I will jump straight into the presentation.
That's great. Slides are coming up. Presentation mode, and away you go.
Okay. So Gilly Ocean Technology is a mariculture-oriented project company and technology. And the company has a vast experience in the offshore projects. We provide A to Z execution projects starting from the breeding to the branding of the fish. We provide hand-to-hand escort all the way from the planning stage till the management and training. We are part of the project, and this is how we see ourselves in every project we approach. The company has started its operations around 2004. We have designed and operated 5 commercial fish farms, with the last one of them being the largest of its kind in the world, with 1,600 tons a year potential capacity, 15 kilometers offshore the coast of Ashdod here in Israel. The core technology of the company is a submersible, flexible, single array net cage. And I will show you a short clip, and I'll follow it with you through it. So on the day-to-day basis, the net cage array floats on the water in operational position. The system has a modular design. You can design a rectangular cage or a round cage. You can have 4 cages, 6 cages, 8 cages, or 10 cages. It all depends on the project's needs and the client's wants. And it is suitable for all commercial species. It is a platform. You can grow sea bream, you can grow hamachi, you can grow yellowtail, any species that is commercially available. Now, the interesting thing is because we work offshore and because of the single array design, the water and the system constantly move and disperse the organic matter in a very wide radius, thus not affecting the seabed floor. It is adjustable and suitable for all soil types. And as you can see here, it can potentially rotate 360 degrees around the single point mooring. With that said, we also have the possibility of a double point mooring design, catching less sea space. Now, another important feature is the submersibility. When a storm approaches or high waves, we submerge the system below the sea level. There, the system and the fish are protected, and we can stand very, very rough sea conditions. In Israel, our system withstood waves of almost 12 meters maximum high and with flying colors. When the storm or the high waves pass, we bring up back the system to operational position and continue the day-to-day operational tasks. Because of the design, everything is in the same place. We like to call it a one-stop operation. Therefore, we reduce manpower, time, and maintenance, and therefore it is very cost effective when going into economy of scale. Because we work offshore and our base, our operational base is the marine vessel. We design our own marine vessels. We implement high-tech technologies like cameras for biomass monitoring and other sensors, cleaning robots and advanced nettings, all to make this operation as much as user-friendly and as cost-effective. This is a comparison we did with a traditional coastal farm here in Israel. As you can see, and this is all because of the superb water condition, we get extremely well results, better growth rate, less mortality, and we can grow in higher densities. What we offer is, of course, an environmentally sustainable technology, and we can also create job places and, of course, food security for the local population. We are looking for local partners. We work in two different cooperation models. One is a transfer of technology, and the other, the preferred by us, is a joint venture. We would like, and we always like to be a partner from the beginning to the end. We have vast experience, and when working offshore, it's extremely important to be a part of the project and not just to sell the technology and afterwards go away. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. I mean, it's very clear. How many installations do you have in place currently?
Currently, we have one installation operating here in Israel, the last one you saw, the largest one. Due to changes in regulation in Israel, the other farms had to be dismantled. But we are now in talks with the government on implementing more farms here in Israel as well.
Right, okay. A couple of questions in from participants. We'll go through those. I mean, you were talking about, as actually came up in the panel, talking about rough seas, and you showed very clearly how you can deal with rough seas, which is great. What about the concept, as you know, with Singapore, with shipping lanes, busy shipping lanes? What are the challenges and how do we deal with those challenges?
So of course, yeah, we're aware of that. First of all, in terms of avoiding ship accidents, the farm has several protection technologies, reflector buoys. We have the boat. The farm is manned 24/7 hours, so the boat has radars and what's the word? Technology to show that the boat is coming close. Of course, we are on the navigational maps. In terms of the sea space, as I mentioned in the presentation, we have not only the single point mooring possibility, but also a double point mooring possibility. This way, the farm catches less sea space and area, so it's more doable in places with high density of marine vessels.
Right, just working through a number of questions here. How do you deal with the problem of mollusks and coral growing on the net?
So with our experience, we have very, very little biofouling on the nets because of the design, because of the constant movement and the flexibility of the system. We don't have almost any biofouling. We use cleaning equipment regularly to clean it, and also we use advanced net with anti-biofouling to prevent even more this of happening.
Right, I've got a question here that's come through. Someone actually sent it to me directly. They couldn't get it into the system. The anchoring system seems to place the cages not perpendicular to tidal flow. So the last cage is receiving compromised water quality with wastes moving through the water column. Now that's, I'm trying to see that question. Was that clear enough for you to hear?
Yes, it is very clear. Now, first of all, when we're talking about current direction, then most of the time the current goes in the opposite direction. It's not that it goes round. So the system changes its direction, and the front cage and the back cage also changes according to the currents. But we have, of course, monitored it, and there's no effect at all on the growth performance or in terms of diseases. We don't use antibiotic at all in our farms. It's a very good question, but with our experience, it has no effect on the last cages.
Well, that's great to know, and thanks for answering that. There are a couple of others, but I'm sorry, Ron, we're going to move on to our next presenter. But I'll encourage those that haven't had their question answered to end up in the networking session, which we'll get to in the next sort of 10 minutes or so. So thank you very much, Ron, for joining us today and sharing.
We have to answer our questions later on. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, so now our last pitch for today is coming from Aquameov. And with us today, we have Shai Silberman, who's the VP of Sales and Marketing at Aquameov. So, are you there, Shai? I shouldn't just keep asking these questions like, are you there? Because everybody is.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
And I can
hello everybody, and thank you for being here. My name is Shai Silverman, and I'm the VP Marketing and Sales for Aquameov. And let's jump right to the presentation. Okay, so I assume that others already spoke about the growing need for food and the sustainability. I want to focus on the fish, and we can see that there is a huge increase in fish consumption, and a lot of studies showing that something like 50% increasing in the global needs, the global consumption over those 30 years. And what we can see here on your left is that we have, if we think about it, this is the only animal during the history that we still hunting, fishing it, okay? And we rely on the wild catch. But on the other hand, you can see that the wild catch now getting into the level at the peak and nearly unchanged and even going down. So the answer for that is the aquaculture. But the traditional aquaculture have a significant limitation, like disease, and we spoke about it before, escapes, predators, pollution, and all other and many other things that brings with it. So the answer for that is the RAS system. The RAS system you can see here. This is our facility, the R&D facility in Poland. This is the inside of it. And here, by the way, you can see here, there is a salmon, okay? And this is the products, the product that we are now selling, and we're doing R&D, and I'll elaborate later. Now, with our system, we recycling 100% of the water. We reduce dramatically the power consumption, and I'll elaborate later with a comparison that I prepared. And also, it's very healthy since we don't need chemicals or antibiotics. And if we're talking about the marine species and the cages, and especially if we're talking about capturing, there is no heavy metal inside, and you have a strict regulations and strict protocols on the biosecurity, so it's disease-free, etc. Also the operation, you have full control on what you are doing, and you can harvest all year round. The fish, you don't need to put the fingerlings or the eggs into the water and now wait for 1 or 2 years, because it's FIFO, first in, first out, okay? And even you make it more efficient in the sense of the FCR, okay? Now, as I mentioned, we have a very strict regulation regarding the biosecurity. Every facility that we start, the design start with the biosecurity design. This is how we start the overall design. And the last thing, and very important, is the revolution that we bring with it. We becoming close to the markets. We don't need to be near the shore or near a big lake or rivers. And it's very, very important because you reduce dramatically the cost of transportation, and it's fresh. Some words about Aquameov. Aquameov got a history of something like 30 years. We have extensive, and we investing a lot in R&D, and I will elaborate later about it. And we have operational facilities, very successful all over the world. Here you can see three of the founders. On your left, you can see Mr. Neda Snir is the third generation of aquaculturists, and Mr. Yoav Dagan and Gary from the state, well known, and he gives a lot of lectures all around the world. The solution. You can see here, this is one of our facilities. It's a real facility that we designed for Japan. It's 10,000 tons of salmon. And we need to understand that we are talking here of mass production. Okay, we are not talking about 50 or 500 tons. We're talking about starting from 2.5 thousand tons, and you can reach up to 20,000 tons in one site. Okay, so what you can see here, three main sections. One, this is the facility for the hatchery and nursery, the grow out, or what we call the fattening area, and the filtration area, which I'll elaborate later about it. The main issue here is that you saving a lot of energy, and the operation here is very, very easy, very simple. Okay, and inside we have some patents that I can elaborate later. Now, if you compare us to other competitors, like Veolia, like Bilud and others, Aqua, we are very, very efficient with the water replacement, with the electricity consumption, and how we separate the solid waste. And also we have an IP or patent on the oxygen supply. We don't use drum filters. We don't use coons. We're using our ODS, the oxygen dissolver system. We're also using the harvest channel, which gives us a gentle way to transfer the fish from pond to pond or to do the harvesting. And also we're dealing with the DNS. This is a denitrification unit that gives us the ability to do almost zero discharge of water. Some words about what we are doing. Our project, it's all around the world, and we're dealing with big companies like Grieg and El, one of the biggest companies that producing salmon from Norway. We have a big project in Newfoundland in Canada for 7,000 tons. And we have in Nevada with other Norwegians, we have 3 projects with 8F. And lately it's announced that we have a project with Proximar in Japan, along with another project in Japan for 8F for 10,000 tons. For Proximar, it's 5,000 tons. I will take you for a short tour on our project. First, let's start with the R&D. We have an R&D for salmon in Poland, producing 500 tons annual production. We have in Israel, in the desert, for shrimps. This is a picture that was taken from Newfoundland in Canada. Okay, it's under construction. This is in Russia, Vologda, for 2.5 thousand tons. Again, in Vologda. This is in a grouper in the Far East in Indonesia, 1,000 tons. This is in Russia, rainbow trout, and you can see this is a returning customer. So you can see also the pipes here that are going for 4.5 thousand tons of salmon. This is the inside. By the way, you can see we don't have coons. This is the ODS. This is our patent. And there are other patents that they short of time, so I cannot elaborate more. This is in Slovakia, the catfish, African catfish, a tropical fish in the middle of the heart of Europe. And in some places, sometimes we can the temperature outside can be reduced to -20, but still it produced with 1,000 tons all year round. You can see the facility here, and you can see the processing. The fish swim from the production unit to the processing and saving a lot of money on the transportation and etc. This is the inside. This is in Israel, Baramundi in the desert. Wow. This is under starting the construction In Japan, the soul of Japan from 8F, we're talking here about 10,000 tons of salmon.
Okay, Shai.
This is in Nevada for West Coast salmon. Okay. And the next thing is the big data. Sorry?
No, I was just going to say, if I can just sort of pull you to a close, that we're just, I want to give some time for questions, but if
this is the end. Just want to say that we are now dealing with the automation and the big data and on the software, because we understand that in the RAS system, one of the constraints of the RAS system is the human resources. So we need to gather all the information and make it automatic. Thank you.
Wow, incredibly impressive. Congratulations on what you and the team have achieved. You showed in that view of the world, and you're in so many places. And I think I saw one of the comments, $400 million in projects. So, enormous achievement. I guess two questions. One is,
yes, please.
How can we help? And obviously, I saw that you're in Indonesia. Your interest in this part of the world, and then a second question. The cost of RAS platforms are obviously, high. And how can you ultimately, or what needs to be done to bring down the cost so that you can then be perhaps applying it for less valuable fish? So firstly, what are you looking for in this part of the world? And then secondly, how do you drive down the cost, or is that not something you see as an option?
Okay. First of all, we as a company, we looking also to invest in kind of those projects, which means that we're looking for partners to invest in such a projects. And we're also putting our skin in the game in that sense. So we're looking for partners. Okay. Right. We are not looking for partners to invest in our company, because we have, let's say, a lot of work, and the only thing that we are looking is to implement more and more facilities. This is one. As for cost reduction, right now the situation is that there is a lot of room for the production of those premium price fish. Yeah. So we are not looking into tilapia or carps or whatever, but we're looking into those premium price fish such as grouper, such as salmon, and others. I think that part of every year what we are trying to do is to do a cost reduction. Mm-hmm. But obviously you need a lot of money to start such a facility, because it's an economy of scale. Okay. Yeah.
Very definitely. No, well, as you're saying, dealing with high value species currently, and as you automate different things and different efficiencies that come into the business, then maybe you can deal with tilapia and other less valuable species. Okay, listen, we've come to the end of your session, Shai. Thank you very much. We still have many people on the call. And so what we're now moving to is the networking session, as we did before. So I'm just checking if we have added in yes, there goes the address is in the chat. So if you see in the chat group, the same website or address is there, click on that, and that will take you to the page, which is coming up right now, just to show you what you're going to see. And if we go down a little bit, we see that the 5 companies that are now open for networking. So again, the same way that you did before, you click on the link to join the meeting, and then that will take you in. If you want to then move to another room, you leave the session, then you come back out to this particular slide, which you can still have that session open, and then you can go into the next room. So I wish you successful networking over the next 30 minutes or so, or as long as the hosts are keen to entertain you. And then we'll close for the day. We won't have a formal close other than me signing off now. And then I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. So we're starting 2:30 p.m. Singapore time, same link, 8:30 Israel time. And tomorrow we're kicking off with urban vertical farming and a number of panels. So thank you for your participation and attention this afternoon and questions. As we said before, as you can see in the Q&A, we are working through all the questions. I think they're pretty well all answered, and we'll get to the others. And then secondly, if you want to have one-on-one meetings, Malay, if you could just move the slide up, you can see JQ's email address there on this slide that's coming up. You can see his question there, jinchin@padang.co. Drop him an email and JQ will get back to you and sort out a one-to-one meeting for you with any of the companies that have been presenting this afternoon. So again, thank you very much for your participation. It's been a great start to the conference, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Thank you very much, and good evening and good day to you.